Welcome, dear traveler through time and space, to the ancient world's most magnificent achievements, to towering pyramids and hanging gardens, to colossal statues and marble temples, to lighthouses guiding sailors and monuments proclaiming divine glory, and to the 7 structures that captured the ancient imagination so powerfully they were deemed the greatest wonders the world had ever seen. Tonight, as you settle into rest, we will journey across the ancient Mediterranean and Near East, visiting each of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. We will stand before the Great Pyramid of Giza, the only wonder still standing after 45 centuries. We will wander through the terraced splendor of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, seeking to understand whether they truly existed or were ancient myth. We will gaze up at the ivory and gold magnificence of the statue of Zeus at Olympia, feeling the awe ancient pilgrims experienced. We will explore the massive tomb of King Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, so magnificent his name became our word for monumental tombs. We will marvel at the temple of Artemis at Ephesus, burned by a madman seeking fame and rebuilt even more gloriously. We will witness the Colossus of Rhodes, the bronze giant that supposedly straddled a harbor. And we will ascend the Lighthouse of Alexandria, the ancient world's tallest structure after the pyramids, guiding ships safely to harbor. This is not merely a catalog of impressive buildings, but an exploration of human ambition, ingenuity, and the desire for immortality through stone and bronze. These monuments reveal what ancient civilizations valued: divine worship, royal glory, civic pride, technological achievement, and the eternal human urge to create something that transcends mortality. We will examine not just the physical structures, but the cultures that created them, the techniques that built them, the purposes they served, and the fates that befell them. We will explore why 6 of the 7 disappeared, destroyed by earthquakes, fires, floods, and human destruction, leaving only fragments, descriptions, and memories. We will consider what these wonders meant to those who saw them, and why they continue to fascinate us millennia after most vanished. But we approach these ancient marvels with both wonder and critical thinking. The ancient wonder lists were subjective, compiled by Greek and Roman travelers who could only visit the Mediterranean world they knew. Remarkable structures in China, India, sub-Saharan Africa, and the Americas were unknown to them and thus excluded. The wonders reflected Hellenistic values and geographic limitations, not objective assessment of all human achievement. We will also acknowledge the human cost. These magnificent structures were built through slave labor, required enormous resources that could have fed the hungry, and often served to glorify rulers while subjects suffered. The wonder and the cost, the achievement and the exploitation, must both be recognized. So breathe deeply. Let your mind travel across oceans and millennia, and prepare to stand before monuments so magnificent that ancient writers struggled to describe them adequately, declaring that words failed to capture their splendor, and that only seeing them could reveal their true majesty. Let us begin our journey in the desert sands of Egypt, where the oldest and most enduring wonder still stands after more than 4,000 years, defying time, weather, and human attempts at destruction: the Great Pyramid of Giza. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands alone among the 7 wonders. It is the oldest, the only one still substantially intact, and the most mysterious. For 45 centuries, it has dominated the Egyptian landscape, prompting awe, speculation, and countless theories about how and why it was built. Understanding this monument requires examining ancient Egyptian civilization, construction techniques, and the enduring mysteries that surround the world's most famous pyramid. Ancient Egypt and the Pyramid Age. The Great Pyramid was built during Egypt's Old Kingdom c. 26 A86-2181 BCE, a period of extraordinary stability, wealth, and cultural achievement. The civilization geographic advantages: the Nile River provided water, fertile soil, and transportation. Annual flooding deposited nutrient-rich silt, enabling agriculture. The surrounding deserts offered protection from invasion. Predictable seasons allowed careful planning. Political unity: Egypt was unified around 3100 BCE under the first pharaoh. The pharaoh was considered a living god, the intermediary between humans and deities. Centralized government controlled vast resources. Efficient bureaucracy managed taxation, agriculture, and labor. Religious beliefs, complex polytheistic religion with hundreds of deities. Obsession with death and the afterlife. Belief that the pharaoh's successful journey to the afterlife benefited all Egypt. Elaborate burial practices and tomb construction. Technological capability, sophisticated mathematics and engineering. Precise astronomical observation. Mastery of stone working. Organizational ability to mobilize massive labor forces. The Pyramid Age c. 2686–2181 BCE. The Old Kingdom earlier developments, mastabas rectangular mud brick tombs, were the earliest royal burial structures. The Step Pyramid of Djoser c. 2670 BCE was the first pyramid, 6 mastabas stacked in diminishing size. Designed by Imhotep architect, physician, and later deified. This innovation led to true pyramids with smooth sides. The 4th Dynasty c. 26, 1324–94 BCE, the Golden Age of pyramid building. The pharaohs Sneferu, Khufu, Khofre, and Menkaure built the greatest pyramids. Enormous resources devoted to these monuments. Sophisticated construction techniques perfected. Khufu Cheops in Greek, the pharaoh who commissioned the Great Pyramid, his reign c. 2589–2566 BCE, second pharaoh of the 4th dynasty. Son of Sneferu, who built 3 pyramids, experimenting with techniques. Reigned for approximately 23 years. Little is known about his personality or specific policies. The historical record. Very few contemporary inscriptions about Khufu survive. Later Greek historians Herodotus portrayed him as a tyrant who enslaved Egypt to build his tomb. This negative portrayal may be unfair. Greek sources, written 2,000 years after his death. Recent scholarship suggests a more nuanced view. The construction of the Great Pyramid. The specifications, original dimensions, height, 146.5 meters, 481 feet, the tallest human-made structure for 3,800 years. Base each side approximately 230 meters, 755 feet. Volume, approximately 2.5 million cubic meters. Weight estimated 5.9 million tons. Angle 51.5 degrees. Current state height 138.8 meters, 455 feet. Lost the top due to erosion and stone removal. The smooth white limestone casing stones were stripped in the Middle Ages for building projects in Cairo. The exposed core masonry gives it the stepped appearance we see today. The materials limestone blocks, approximately 2.3 million blocks. Average weight 2.5 tons each. Some blocks weigh up to 15 tons. Core blocks were local limestone, lower quality, easier to quarry. Casing stones were fine white Tura limestone from quarries across the Nile, higher quality, took polish. Granite used in the king's chamber and relieving chambers above it. Quarried at Aswan, 800 kilometers 500 miles south, transported by barge down the Nile. Some granite blocks weigh up to 80 tons. The construction process, how was it built? This question has fascinated scholars, engineers, and the public for centuries. The labor force, not slaves. Recent archaeological evidence strongly suggests the pyramid was built by paid laborers, not slaves. Workers' villages discovered near Giza show organized settlements. Workers received wages, beer, bread, onions, other provisions. Medical care was provided, evidence of healed fractures, suggesting injured workers were treated and cared for. Graffiti by work gangs shows pride in their labor. Friends of Khufu, drunkards of Menkaure. The numbers core workforce, probably around 10,000 to 2,000 skilled workers. Seasonal labor, additional workers during Nile flood season, when farming was impossible. Total involved over 20 plus years, perhaps 100,000 plus people rotated through. This was a national project, not just the pharaoh's vanity. Quarrying limestone. Quarrying workers cut trenches around blocks using copper tools and stone hammers. Wooden wedges were inserted and soaked with water, expanding and cracking the stone. Blocks were shaped roughly at the quarry. Fine shaping happened on site. Granite quarrying much harder. Dolerite hammers, extremely hard stone, pounded the granite. Enormously labor intensive. Precise techniques that we still don't fully understand. Transportation, moving blocks from quarries to the site. Local limestone quarries were very close to the pyramid site. Blocks moved on wooden sledges pulled by teams of workers. Sand was wetted to reduce friction. Recent experiments confirm this worked effectively. Granite from Aswan transported by barge during Nile flood season when water levels were high. Barges could carry multiple blocks. Unloaded near the pyramid site. Lifting blocks, the great mystery. How did workers lift millions of blocks to heights of 140+ meters? Theories: none proven definitively. External ramp, a long, straight ramp built alongside the pyramid. As the pyramid grew, the ramp was extended and raised. Problem: a ramp tall enough and gentle enough for the upper levels would be longer than the pyramid itself and require more material. Spiral ramp, a ramp spiraling around the pyramid's exterior. Problem: how to build the corners. How to verify the pyramid's shape as it rose. Internal ramp. Recent theories suggest ramps inside the pyramid structure. Evidence includes gaps in the masonry that might have been ramps. Jean-Pierre Houdin's internal ramp theory, proposed 2007, is intriguing but unproven. Leverage systems using wooden levers, counterweights, and rocking motions. Moving blocks incrementally, combined with short ramps. The likely answer: multiple techniques were probably used. External ramps for the lower levels. Increasingly sophisticated systems for upper levels. Combination of ramps, levers, and ingenuity. Precision and alignment. The accuracy is astonishing. Orientation. The pyramid is aligned to the cardinal directions north, south, east, west with incredible precision. Deviation only about 3/60th of a degree, essentially perfect. How? Probably by observing stars. The northern celestial pole was useful for finding true north. The base is almost perfectly level. Maximum deviation about 2 cm across 230 meters. How? Probably water channels to establish a level plane. The sides, the four sides, are almost perfectly equal in length. Deviation only a few centimeters over 230+ meters. This required sophisticated surveying and mathematics. The engineering, the pyramid's design demonstrates understanding of geometry and structural engineering. The weight is distributed to avoid collapse. Internal chambers are designed to bear enormous weight through relieving chambers. The time frame: how long did it take? Herodotus claimed 20 years writing, 2,000 years later, so this may be legend. Modern calculations: if 2.3 million blocks were placed over 20 years, that's 115,000 blocks per year, or about 315 blocks per day, or about 1 block every 2-3 minutes during a 10-hour workday. This seems impossibly fast, but becomes more plausible if multiple work gangs worked simultaneously on different sections. Work continued year-round, though more intensively during the flood season. Not all blocks required the same labor. Smaller blocks were easier. Much of the volume is rubble fill, not carefully cut blocks. The estimate, 20-30 years, is plausible with the workforce and techniques available. The purpose and interior. Why build pyramids? Religious function. The pyramid was the pharaoh's tomb and his vehicle to the afterlife. The shape may have symbolized the primordial mound from which creation began, or the sun's rays. The pyramid was part of a larger complex: mortuary temple, causeway, valley temple, subsidiary pyramids. Elaborate rituals ensured the pharaoh's successful journey to join the gods. Political function demonstrated the pharaoh's power and Egypt's wealth. Unified the nation through shared labor. Provided employment and sustenance for thousands. Created a permanent monument to royal authority. The interior. The entrance, originally on the north face, about 17 meters above ground. Hidden by casing stones discovered or rediscovered by Caliph al-Mamun's men in 820 CE when they forced entry. The passages and chambers. The descending passage, narrow corridor, descending into the bedrock, leads to the subterranean chamber, unfinished, purpose unknown, possibly a decoy or abandoned plan. The ascending passage branches off from the descending passage, originally sealed with massive granite blocks, leads upward into the pyramid. The grand gallery, an astonishing corbelled corridor, 8.6 meters high, 47 meters long. Architectural marvel. The corbelling distributes weight. Purpose uncertain, possibly for storing blocking stones. The queen's chamber, misleadingly named not for a queen. Purpose unknown, possibly intended as the burial chamber, but plans changed. Contains enigmatic shafts too narrow for humans, possibly symbolic, or ventilation. The king's chamber, the actual burial chamber probably, entirely lined with granite, contains a granite sarcophagus lidless and empty when discovered. 5 relieving chambers above it, stacked granite chambers to distribute the pyramid's weight. The 4 shafts extend from the king's and queen's chambers. 2 reach the exterior from king's chamber, possibly ventilation or symbolic soul paths. 2 were discovered to be blocked from queen's chamber, explored by robot cameras in the 1990s-2000s, revealing copper fittings and mysterious markings. What happened to Khufu's body? The sarcophagus was empty when the pyramid was first entered, or entered in historical times. Tomb robbers probably looted it in antiquity. No trace of Khufu's mummy has ever been found. The pyramid had been violated long before the Middle Ages. The pyramid complex. The Great Pyramid didn't stand alone. The mortuary temple, built against the pyramid's east face. Almost nothing remains destroyed or buried. This is where rituals for the dead pharaoh were performed. The causeway-covered corridor connecting the mortuary temple to the valley temple, about 0.8 kilometers long. Workers and priests would process along this during ceremonies. The valley temple, at the edge of the Nile flood plain, where the pharaoh's body was received and mummified, mostly destroyed or buried. The subsidiary pyramids, 3 small pyramids called the Queen's Pyramids, probably for Khufu's wives or daughters, much smaller than the Great Pyramid. The boat pits, 5 boat pits discovered around the pyramid. 1 contained a disassembled cedar boat, the solar boat or Khufu ship, reassembled and now displayed in a museum. Purpose uncertain for the pharaoh's journey in the afterlife. For funerary processions. The workers' cemetery and village, discovered in the 1990s, revealed much about how the pyramid was built. Workers were buried with honor, not discarded like slaves. The mysteries and theories. The Great Pyramid has inspired countless theories, from plausible to absurd astronomical alignments. The pyramid does align precisely with cardinal directions. Some claim it encodes astronomical knowledge, positions of stars, etc. Some alignments are real, others are coincidental or overstated. Mathematical properties. The pyramid's dimensions contain mathematical relationships, pi, phi, the golden ratio. Some are real, some are coincidental. If you measure any complex structure in enough ways, you'll find mathematical relationships. Did the Egyptians deliberately encode this knowledge, or is it consequence of the construction methods? The Orion correlation theory, proposed by Robert Bauval, 1989, claims the 3 Giza pyramids align with the 3 stars of Orion's belt. Also claims the Nile represents the Milky Way. The correlation is imperfect, and mainstream Egyptologists are skeptical. But it's intriguing and not impossible. Fringe theories not supported by evidence. Aliens. The pyramids were built by extraterrestrials, or with alien technology. This is based on incredulity, disbelief, that ancient humans could achieve this. It's also profoundly disrespectful to ancient Egyptians, denying their ingenuity and capability. There's no evidence whatsoever for alien involvement. Lost advanced civilization, Atlantis, or another advanced civilization built the pyramids. Again, no evidence. This underestimates what organized human labor and ancient engineering could accomplish. Power plants, energy devices, etc. The pyramids generated power or had technological functions. No evidence, and these theories misunderstand the pyramid's structure and purpose. Why the fringe theories persist. The pyramid is genuinely impressive and mysterious. Some details remain unexplained. Humans are drawn to mysteries and alternative explanations. But Occam's razor suggests the simplest explanation. The ancient Egyptians were brilliant engineers who built the pyramids using techniques we partially understand and partially still puzzle over. The pyramid's later history. The Great Pyramid has witnessed 4,500 years of history. Ancient veneration. The pyramid was already ancient to the Greeks and Romans. Herodotus visited and wrote about it c. 450 BCE. His account includes accurate observations mixed with fantastic stories. The pyramid was a tourist attraction even in antiquity. Medieval period Arab scholars studied it. Caliph al-Mamun's men tunneled in 820 CE, creating the entrance tourists use today. The casing stones were stripped, used to build mosques and palaces in Cairo. By the 14th century, the pyramid had lost its smooth exterior. Modern rediscovery. Napoleon's expedition to Egypt 1798-1801 sparked European interest. Early archaeologists and adventurers explored and measured the pyramid. Some were treasure hunters, some were serious scholars. The science of Egyptology developed in the 19th century. Tourism and preservation. The pyramid is Egypt's most iconic symbol. Millions visit annually. Conservation efforts attempt to preserve it. Pollution, tourism, and time take their toll. The Great Pyramid today. What remains physical state? The core structure is intact. The casing stones are gone, except a few at the base and near the top. The interior is accessible though hot, cramped, and challenging. The top is flat. The pyramidion capstone is missing. It may have been gold-plated. Cultural significance. Symbol of Egypt and of ancient achievement. UNESCO World Heritage Site, one of the most recognized structures in the world. Scientific interest. Ongoing research including scanning with cosmic rays to detect hidden chambers. In 2017, the Scan Pyramids project discovered a large void above the Grand Gallery. Purpose unknown. Every generation brings new technologies and new questions. The enduring mystery. We know much about how it was built, but many details remain uncertain. The pyramid resists complete explanation. This enhances rather than diminishes its wonder. Why? It survives. The Great Pyramid is the only ancient wonder still standing. Why? Structural solidity. Massive, simple design. Solid masonry. Mostly solid, not hollow like later monuments. Geometric stability. Pyramid shape is inherently strong. Quality materials and construction. Desert location. Dry climate preserves stone. No vegetation to damage it. Geological stability. The Giza Plateau is solid bedrock. Cultural reverence. Even invaders respected it usually. Too massive to easily destroy or dismantle. Recognized as special even by those who stripped its casing stones. The Great Pyramid stands as testament to human ambition, ingenuity, organizational capacity, and the desire to create something eternal, and it has succeeded, outlasting the civilization that built it by millennia, and standing as the most enduring wonder of the ancient world. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon are the most mysterious of the seven wonders. No archaeological trace has been definitively identified. No contemporary Babylonian texts mention them, and scholars debate whether they existed at all. Yet they captured the ancient imagination like no other wonder, described as a paradise in the desert, a triumph of engineering bringing lush greenery to an arid land. Understanding this wonder requires exploring ancient Mesopotamia, examining the contradictory evidence, and considering whether we've been looking in the wrong place, or whether the gardens were beautiful fiction. Ancient Mesopotamia and Babylon. The cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, land between the rivers the Tigris and Euphrates, was one of humanity's first centers of civilization. Geographic context: modern Iraq and parts of Syria, Turkey, and Iran. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers provided water for agriculture. Irrigation enabled farming in an otherwise arid region. Strategic location connected trade routes. Early civilizations: Sumerians c. 4005-1900 BCE invented writing cuneiform, built city-states, developed mathematics. Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians, successive empires in Mesopotamia. Sophisticated urban societies with complex governments, religions, and cultures. Babylon, the city's history, founded around 2300 BCE. Became prominent under Hammurabi c. 1792-1750 BCE, who created his famous law code. Later conquered by various powers. Destroyed and rebuilt multiple times. The Neo-Babylonian Empire 626-539 BCE, the period when the Hanging Gardens supposedly existed. Nebuchadnezzar I-2 605-562 BCE, the most famous Babylonian king, rebuilt Babylon into a magnificent city. Constructed impressive fortifications, temples, and palaces. The biblical villain who destroyed Jerusalem 586 BCE and took the Jews into captivity. Credited with building the Hanging Gardens according to later Greek and Roman sources. Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar, one of the ancient world's largest cities, perhaps 200,000 inhabitants. Surrounded by massive walls according to Herodotus, though his measurements are probably exaggerated. The Ishtar Gate, partially reconstructed in Berlin's Pergamon Museum, shows Babylon's architectural splendor. Ziggurate stepped temples, palaces, and processional ways. A center of astronomy, mathematics, and culture. The traditional story of the gardens. According to ancient Greek and Roman writers, the legendary origin Amides of Media, Nebuchadnezzar's wife or possibly concubine. Daughter of the king of the Medes, Media, in modern Iran, she missed the green mountains and lush landscapes of her homeland. Babylon's flat, dusty plains depressed her. Nebuchadnezzar, loving her, built the gardens to remind her of home. The descriptions, classical sources. Philo of Byzantium c. 225 BCE, wrote the earliest surviving description, described terraces rising like a theater. Trees planted at each level. The whole structure supported on columns. Irrigation brought water to the highest terraces. Diodorus Siculus c. 6030 BCE, Greek historian, described gardens built in quadrangular tiers. Each terrace was planted with trees. The structure was 120 feet high. Irrigation engines lifted water from the Euphrates. Strabo c. 64 BCE 24 CE, geographer, described vaulted terraces. Stone columns supporting the gardens. Waterproofing with bitumen and lead. Screw pumps lifting water. Quintus Curtius Rufus, 1st century CE, described the gardens in his History of Alexander the Great. Alexander supposedly saw them, though this is questionable. The supposed features terraced structure, multiple levels rising like a stepped pyramid or ziggurat. Each terrace was planted with trees, shrubs, and flowers. The effect was of a green mountain. The plants, trees, possibly cedars, cypresses, palms, flowering plants and vines, perhaps fruit trees, an artificial forest in the desert. The irrigation, the key engineering marvel. Water lifted from the Euphrates River or a nearby canal. Various mechanisms described: screw pumps, chain pumps, shaduf-like devices, distributed across the terraces. Constant watering necessary in the dry climate. The size descriptions vary wildly. Perhaps 120 feet, 37 meters high Diodorus. Perhaps 400 feet, 122 meters square at the base. Or possibly smaller. Ancient measurements are unreliable. The problem: no archaeological evidence. Despite extensive excavations of Babylon, no definitive trace of the Hanging Gardens has been found. German excavations, 1899-1917, Robert Coldwell-led systematic excavations uncovered the Ishtar Gate, palaces, temples, and city walls, mapped Babylon's layout extensively. Found no structure matching descriptions of the Hanging Gardens. Coldwell speculated that vaulted structures near the southern palace might be the garden's foundation. But this identification is uncertain and disputed. The vaulted building unusual for Babylon. Most buildings used mud brick, not vaulted stone. Could have supported a heavy structure with earth and water. But no clear irrigation system was found. Could be storage rooms, not garden foundations. The absence of Babylonian texts, cuneiform records, thousands of cuneiform tablets from Nebuchadnezzar's reign survive. He lists his building projects extensively. Palaces, temples, walls, gates all mentioned. The Hanging Gardens, never mentioned. This is the strongest evidence against their existence in Babylon. Why the silence? If the gardens were so magnificent, why didn't Nebuchadnezzar boast about them? Why don't they appear in Babylonian literature or inscriptions? This absence is damning. The Assyrian alternative: did we look in the wrong place? Dr. Stephanie Daly, Oxford, proposed a revolutionary theory. 1990s, 2000s, the gardens existed, but in Nineveh, not Babylon. Nineveh, capital of the Assyrian Empire, north of Babylon, near modern Mosul, Iraq, ruled by Sennacherib r. 705-681 BCE, about a century before Nebuchadnezzar. Daly's evidence: Sennacherib's inscriptions. He explicitly describes creating a wonder for all peoples. He built a palace with gardens. He created an innovative water system, aqueducts bringing water from mountains. He describes bronze screw pumps matching descriptions of the Hanging Gardens' irrigation. He says he planted the gardens with exotic trees and plants. The descriptions match the Hanging Gardens. The Jerwan aqueduct, built by Sennacherib, brought water 50 kilometers from mountains to Nineveh. Impressive engineering parts still visible today. Could have supplied water for elaborate gardens. The confusion Greek writers writing centuries later may have confused Nineveh and Babylon. Both were Mesopotamian cities. Babylon was more famous to Greeks, so the gardens were attributed to Babylon. Sennacherib's Assyrian gardens became Nebuchadnezzar's Babylonian gardens in later tradition. The case for Nineveh contemporary inscriptions, Sennacherib's own words. Matching engineering screw pumps, aqueducts. Archaeological evidence the aqueduct exists. Explaining why no Babylonian texts mention the gardens because they weren't in Babylon. The case against the classical sources specifically say Babylon. No structure matching the gardens has been found at Nineveh either. The theory requires assuming major confusion by multiple ancient writers. Some scholars remain unconvinced. Other theories and possibilities. They never existed. The skeptical view no archaeological evidence in Babylon. No contemporary Babylonian texts. Classical descriptions written centuries after the supposed construction. Perhaps the Hanging Gardens were a legend, a conflation of various gardens, or pure invention. Why invent them? Gardens were rare and impressive in the ancient Near East. Several Mesopotamian kings built gardens, Sennacherib certainly, possibly others. The idea of a garden paradise in the desert was compelling. Later writers may have exaggerated or invented to make their list of wonders more impressive. They existed but were destroyed completely. Babylon was conquered, rebuilt, and abandoned multiple times. Mud brick Babylon's primary building material erodes completely if not maintained. Gardens are organic, they die without care. Perhaps the gardens were destroyed by war, flood, or simply abandonment. Later construction may have obliterated any trace. The Euphrates shifted course. Rivers in Mesopotamia change course over centuries. Perhaps the gardens' remains are underwater or eroded away. They were smaller and less grand. Perhaps classical writers exaggerated. Maybe there were pleasant palace gardens, not unusual, that grew in retelling. The wonder was created through literary embellishment. The significance of gardens in the ancient world. Why were gardens important? Practical value, shade crucial in hot climates. Fruit trees, food. Pleasant environment, psychological well-being. Symbolic value, the Garden of Eden. Mesopotamian and biblical traditions valued gardens as paradises. Gardens represented order, civilization, and divine blessing amid chaos. Royal power, creating gardens in arid regions demonstrated control over nature. Wealth, gardens required water, labor, exotic plants. Sophistication and culture. Persian paradise gardens. Later Persian kings created elaborate gardens. The word paradise comes from Persian paradisa, enclosed garden. Gardens were earthly reflections of heavenly paradise. This tradition influenced Islamic garden design. The Hanging Gardens, whether in Babylon, Nineveh, or legend, fit this pattern. A king's ability to create a green paradise in the desert demonstrated ultimate power. The gardens were propaganda, showing the king's might and benevolence. The engineering challenge. If the gardens existed, the engineering was impressive. The irrigation problem, water lifting. The Euphrates in Babylon or water sources in Nineveh were lower than the gardens. Water had to be lifted perhaps 20-40 meters. Continuously, gardens need regular watering. Possible technologies, screw pumps, Archimedean screws, helical surfaces inside a tube. Rotating the tube lifts water. Efficient and reliable. Sennacherib describes something similar. Later attributed to Archimedes, 3rd century BCE, but perhaps older. Chain pumps buckets on an endless chain. Rotating lifts water. Labor-intensive but effective. Shaduf lever and counterweight system. Used in Egypt and Mesopotamia for irrigation. Could lift water but labor-intensive for large volumes. Multiple stages, water could be lifted in stages. First terrace pumped from river, second from first, etc. The waterproofing problem, preventing leaks. Terraces needed waterproofing to prevent water from eroding the structure. Ancient sources mention bitumen and lead. Bitumen asphalt was available in Mesopotamia and was used for waterproofing. Reed mats, bitumen layers, and lead sheeting could create waterproof terraces. The structural problems supporting weight, soil, water, and trees are heavy. The structure needed to support enormous weight. Stone vaulting arches could do this, but Babylon primarily used mud brick, weaker than stone. This is another argument for the garden's non-existence, or for the Nineveh location, which had more access to stone. The enduring mystery and cultural impact. Despite uncertainty about their existence, the Hanging Gardens have influenced culture literary impact. They became the archetype of the beautiful, impossible garden. Paradise made real through human effort. Romantic symbol of love, Nebuchadnezzar building them for Amutes. Artistic representations, countless paintings and illustrations, all imaginary, since no one knows what they looked like. Usually shown as lush terraces with waterfalls, exotic plants, and architectural splendor, these images owe more to imagination than evidence. Modern gardens, terraced gardens, rooftop gardens, and vertical gardens cite the Hanging Gardens as inspiration. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon perhaps inspire green walls and urban forestry today. The verdict. What should we conclude? Possibilities: the gardens existed in Babylon, but have been completely destroyed or remain undiscovered. The gardens existed in Nineveh, Dali's theory, and were later misattributed to Babylon. The gardens were real but much less grand than described literary exaggeration. The gardens never existed and were legend from the start. Most likely, in this author's view, some impressive gardens existed in ancient Mesopotamia, probably multiple locations. These were conflated, exaggerated, and romanticized by later writers. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, as described in classical sources, are partly real, partly legend. Dr. Dali's Nineveh theory is plausible and deserves serious consideration. Certainty is impossible with current evidence. The Hanging Gardens, whether real or legendary, represent humanity's desire to create beauty and paradise, to overcome environmental challenges through ingenuity, and to immortalize achievement through story. Even if the physical monument has vanished, the legend endures. Here we pause in our journey through the seven wonders. We have stood before the Great Pyramid of Giza, the oldest and most enduring wonder, marveling at ancient Egyptian engineering and the monument's 45-century survival. We have searched for the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, finding mystery instead of certainty, debating whether the gardens graced Babylon or Nineveh, or existed only in legend. As you drift toward sleep, imagine the ancient world, the Great Pyramid, rising from the Egyptian desert, its limestone casing gleaming white in the sun, while across the Near East, perhaps in Babylon or Nineveh, terraced gardens bloom impossibly green, water flowing from ingenious pumps, birds singing among cypresses and palms, creating paradise in an arid land. When we continue, we will travel to Olympia in Greece to witness the magnificent statue of Zeus, seeing why ancient pilgrims wept at its beauty. We will visit Halicarnassus to explore the Mausoleum, the tomb so grand, it gave us the word for monumental burial monuments. We will see the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, burned for fame and rebuilt for glory. And we will witness the engineering marvels that were the Colossus of Rhodes and the Lighthouse of Alexandria, each representing humanity's ambition to create something greater than ourselves. But for now, rest. The pyramids still stand watch over the desert, and somewhere, whether in ruins, in memory, or only in imagination, the Hanging Gardens still bloom. The statue of Zeus at Olympia was perhaps the most emotionally powerful of the seven wonders, a colossal figure of the king of the gods, wrought in gold and ivory, that moved ancient viewers to tears and awe. Though it survived for over 800 years before being destroyed, not a trace of the statue itself remains. Understanding this wonder requires exploring ancient Greek religion, the artistry of Phidias, and the sacred sanctuary where gods and mortals met through athletic competition. Ancient Olympia and the Olympic Games. The sanctuary Olympia was not a city but a sacred precinct in the western Peloponnese geographic setting, a valley where the Alpheos and Cladios rivers meet. Surrounded by hills and forests. Beautiful, peaceful setting conducive to worship. About 300 kilometers southwest of Athens. Religious significance: sacred to Zeus, king of the Olympian gods. Site of worship since perhaps 1000 BCE. Multiple temples, altars, and shrines. Pilgrims came from across the Greek world. The Olympic Games origin and purpose: traditional founding, 776 BCE, though games probably older. Held every 4 years, an Olympiad. Religious festival honoring Zeus. Athletic competitions were sacred rituals, not mere entertainment. During the games, all Greek warfare ceased, sacred truce. The events running races: stadion, diaiolos, dolichos, wrestling, boxing, pankration, no-holds-barred fighting. Pentathlon, discus, javelin, jump, running, wrestling. Chariot racing, most prestigious and dangerous. Events for boys and men, no women. Women had their own separate games for Hera. The prizes and glory winners received olive wreaths from Zeus's sacred olive tree. No monetary prizes, but glory, honor, and fame. Victors became heroes in their home cities. Statues erected, odes composed by poets like Pindar. Athletic victory was religious honor and civic pride. The cultural significance, the games united the fractious Greek city-states. Pan-Hellenic identity, all Greeks participated. Display of Greek civilization's values, physical excellence, competitive spirit, religious devotion. The context, why build the statue? The Temple of Zeus around 470–456 BCE. Olympia built a massive temple to Zeus financed by spoils from a local war. Designed by Liban of Ilis. Doric style, sturdy, dignified, masculine. Enormous, about 64 meters long, 28 meters wide. Decorated with sculptural friezes showing Zeus's mythology. The need for a cult statue. Greek temples housed cult statues, representations of the deity. These statues were the god's earthly presence. Worshippers made offerings before the statue. The statue mediated between human and divine. But the temple was the greatest in Greece, it needed the greatest statue. Phidias, the master sculptor. The commission went to Phidias c. 480–430 BCE, ancient Greece's most celebrated sculptor, his background born in Athens. Studied sculpture and bronze casting. Became friends with Pericles, Athens's leader. Directed the sculptures for the Parthenon, including the Athena Parthenos. His reputation, considered antiquity's greatest sculptor. Master of the chryselephantine technique, gold and ivory. His works combined technical perfection with emotional power. Ancient sources praised his ability to represent the divine. The commission c. 435 BCE. Phidias was invited to Olympia to create the Zeus statue. This was after his work on the Parthenon. He may have been fleeing accusations in Athens. Political enemies accused him of embezzlement and impiety. The Olympia project was a fresh start and his masterpiece. The construction, creating the god. The workshop, archaeologists discovered Phidias's workshop in the 1950s, located adjacent to the temple. Exactly the same dimensions as the temple's interior cella where the statue would stand. This allowed Phidias to construct the statue and verify it would fit. The workshop contained tools, molds for casting, and even a cup inscribed "I belong to Phidias." The technique, chryselephantine sculpture. What is chryselephantine? Greek chrysos, gold, plus elephantinos, ivory. A wooden core structure. Overlaid with carved ivory for flesh, face, arms, torso. Gold sheets for clothing, hair, ornaments. Sometimes inlaid with precious stones and glass for eyes. The materials, ivory imported from Africa or India. Elephant tusks were carved into thin plaques. These were attached to the wooden core. Ivory approximates flesh tones and had translucence. Extremely expensive and difficult to work. Gold hammered into thin sheets. Shaped to represent Zeus's robes and regalia. Hundreds of kilograms of gold. Could be removed and weighed, accountability for the sacred treasury. The wooden framework, cedar or other strong wood. Complex internal structure to support the weight. The framework had to be engineered carefully. It stood about 12–13 meters tall, about 40 feet. Precious materials, ebony for the throne, gemstones for decoration, glass for eyes, bronze and other metals for details. The construction process, years of work, probably took 8–12 years. Many assistants and craftsmen. Ivory carving, gold working, carpentry, painting. Assembly built in the workshop, then carefully disassembled. Transported piece by piece to the temple, reassembled inside the cella. The final placement, the statue stood at the temple's west end, on a raised platform about 1 meter high, facing east toward the temple entrance. Designed to be seen by pilgrims entering the temple. The statue's appearance. We know the statue's appearance from ancient descriptions and later artistic representations, coins, gems, pottery. The god himself, Zeus, seated. The god sat on an elaborate throne. His head nearly touched the temple ceiling. If he stood, he'd break through the roof. Ancient writers noted this. The statue's scale suggested Zeus's power could barely be contained. The face and upper body, ivory skin, realistic and lifelike. Majestic bearded face, the classical Zeus appearance that influenced all later depictions. Powerful torso, heroic, muscular, idealized. Expression of serene authority, neither angry nor smiling, divine calm. The clothing and regalia, the robe of gold, draped across his lower body and left shoulder, decorated with animals and lilies, symbols of power and purity. The gold gleamed in lamplight. The crowned olive wreath appropriate for Olympia, possibly also raised like a sun crown. In his hands, right hand held Nike, goddess of victory. Nike was life-sized, about 2 meters tall. Also chryselephantine. Nike represented Zeus granting victory. Left hand held a scepter, symbol of royal authority. Topped with an eagle, Zeus's sacred bird. The scepter was inlaid with precious metals and stones. The throne was a masterpiece itself, materials, ebony, ivory, gold, and precious stones. Cedar wood framework. Decorations, painted scenes, mythological narratives, possibly the labors of Heracles. Theseus fighting the Amazons, other heroic stories. Sculptural elements, sphinxes on the armrests. Nike figures, victories at the throne's feet. Intricate inlay work. The base, black marble, about 1 meter high and 6.5 meters wide, held the throne and statue. The pool at the statue's base was a shallow pool filled with olive oil, not water. Water would damage the ivory and wood. The oil served multiple purposes, maintained humidity, preventing the ivory from cracking in the dry climate. Reflected light upward, illuminating the statue from below. Created shimmering effects. The pool was about 5 meters wide and shallow. The lighting controlled illumination. The temple's interior was dim, small windows, thick walls, lamplight, and reflected light from the pool created dramatic effects. The gold gleamed, the ivory glowed. The statue seemed to radiate divine presence. The experience of seeing the statue. Ancient reactions, the statue's impact on viewers was profound. Dio Chrysostom, 1st century CE, wrote, "Anyone burdened with grief who stood before the statue would forget their sorrows." The statue brought peace and joy. It captured Zeus's nature, perfectly benevolent, powerful, serene. Pausanias, 2nd century CE, Greek traveler and geographer who visited Olympia, described the statue in detail, our most important source. Praised Phidias's skill. Noted the statue's majesty and beauty. Strabo wrote that the statue's scale and beauty were without parallel. Quintilian, Roman rhetorician, said Phidias added something to traditional religion. The statue enhanced how people conceived of Zeus. Why such emotional impact? The scale, larger than life, 13 meters tall in a seated position. Overwhelming presence. Created sense of awe and one's own smallness. The craftsmanship, exquisite detail. Realistic ivory skin, gleaming gold, perfect proportions. The religious context, viewers were pilgrims at a sacred site. They came predisposed to religious experience. The statue was the culmination of their journey. The combination of artistry, scale, and faith created transcendent moments. The setting, the dim temple interior. The dramatic lighting. The anticipation, approaching the temple, entering, walking toward the statue. The ritual context, offerings, prayers, ceremonies, maintenance and preservation. The statue required constant care. The Phidianti, a family of hereditary caretakers. Descendants of Phidias, possibly sources unclear. Their job was to clean, oil, and maintain the statue. They used olive oil to preserve the ivory. They polished the gold. They made minor repairs. Challenges, environmental, temperature and humidity fluctuations. Ivory cracks if too dry. Wood warps and rots if too humid. The pool of oil helped, but wasn't perfect. Structural, the statue's weight. The internal wooden framework could weaken. Repairs required skilled craftsmen. Protection, guards protected against theft. Fire was a constant danger. Oil, wood, enclosed space. The fate of the statue. The statue of Zeus survived for over 800 years, but eventually vanished. Roman period, Rome conquered Greece in 146 BCE. The Olympic Games continued. Romans loved them. The statue remained in place. Roman emperors visited and admired it. Some considered moving it to Rome. Emperor Caligula reportedly wanted to, but the project was too difficult, and the statue reportedly laughed when workers approached. Probably the statue creaked, or a priest warned them off. Decline of paganism, Christianity's rise. By the 4th century CE, Christianity was the Roman Empire's dominant religion. Pagan temples were closed or destroyed. The Olympic Games were suppressed. Emperor Theodosius YR 379-3095 CE banned pagan practices. Closed pagan temples. The Olympic Games were held for the last time in 393 CE. The Temple of Zeus was closed. The statue's end, the mystery of disappearance. We don't know exactly when or how the statue was destroyed. Possibility 1. Moved to Constantinople. Some sources suggest the statue was moved to Constantinople, modern Istanbul, around 400 CE. Placed in the Palace of Colossus, a collection of pagan masterpieces. Destroyed in a fire in 475 CE. This is mentioned by Byzantine sources but hard to verify. Possibility 2. Destroyed at Olympia. The temple may have been destroyed by fire in the 5th or 6th century. Earthquakes damaged Olympia repeatedly. The statue might have burned in the temple or been dismantled for its gold. Possibility 3. Gradual dismantling. Christian authorities or vandals might have stripped the gold. The ivory might have been taken. The wooden core left to decay or burn. Most likely a combination, perhaps partially dismantled, possibly moved, though moving such a massive statue seems nearly impossible, eventually destroyed by fire or decay. The temple's fate. Earthquakes in the 6th century damaged Olympia. The Alpheus River flooded repeatedly. The site was gradually buried under silt and earth. By medieval times, Olympia was completely buried and forgotten. Rediscovery and archaeology. Modern rediscovery. 18th–19th centuries, European travelers identified the site. Richard Chandler 1766 identified Olympia correctly. German excavations. Systematic excavation began in 1875 and continues periodically. The Temple of Zeus was excavated. The sculptural decorations were recovered now in the Olympia Archaeological Museum. Phidias's workshop was discovered 1950s. What remains? The temple foundation and column drums. The site is preserved as an archaeological park. Visitors can walk where ancient pilgrims walked. The sculptural decorations. The temple's pediments. East is Zeus presiding over a chariot race. West, Centromachy, battle of lapiths and centaurs. These are among the finest examples of classical Greek sculpture. Though damaged, they show the artistry of the 5th century BCE. Phidias's workshop foundation preserved. The tools and molds found there are displayed in the museum. Phidias's cup is one of Olympia's treasures. No trace of the statue itself, not a single fragment of the Zeus statue, has been identified with certainty. The gold was valuable and would have been melted down. Ivory deteriorates or would have been destroyed. The wood burned or rotted. Later representations and influence. Though the statue is gone, it influenced art and culture. Ancient copies. Coins from Elaeus, the city that controlled Olympia, show the statue. Gems, pottery, and small-scale sculptures attempted to reproduce it. These give us some idea of the appearance, but none capture the original's scale and majesty. Roman copies. Romans admired Greek art and copied famous works. But the Zeus statue's technique, Chrysolephantine, and scale made copying impractical. No full-scale copies were made. The classical Zeus. Phidias's conception of Zeus became the standard. Later depictions of Zeus and later, the Christian god and saints drew on Phidias's majestic, bearded, seated figure. Michelangelo's God in the Sistine Chapel owes something to this tradition. Reconstructions. Modern attempts. Drawings and paintings imaginary, but based on descriptions, 3D computer models. A full-size reconstruction at an amusement park in China. Questionable accuracy, but gives a sense of scale. The challenge will never know exactly what it looked like. Descriptions vary in detail. Scale drawings are speculative. The emotional impact can't be reproduced. The legacy of the statue of Zeus. Artistic legacy demonstrated the potential of monumental sculpture. The Chrysolephantine technique influenced later art, though it was rarely used, too expensive and difficult. Established the classical Zeus iconography. Religious significance. The statue embodied ancient Greek conceptions of divinity. It showed how art could mediate between human and divine. It represented the peak of Greek religious art. Cultural impact. The statue was a symbol of Greek culture and Olympic tradition. Its loss represents the transition from pagan to Christian civilization. It remains a symbol of what's been lost. The question of greatest wonder. Ancient writers debated which wonder was greatest. Many chose the Zeus statue not for engineering but for beauty. It moved the soul, not just impressed the mind. This represents one understanding of wonder, not just scale or difficulty, but emotional and spiritual impact. The statue of Zeus at Olympia reminds us that wonders aren't just feats of engineering, but also artistic achievements that touch the human spirit. It was meant to inspire awe and devotion, and for over 8 centuries, it succeeded, creating moments of transcendence where mortals encountered the divine through human artistry. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus was so magnificent that the king's name Mausolus became our word for any grand tomb, a mausoleum. This wonder combined Greek architectural refinement with Persian monumental scale, creating a hybrid masterpiece that honored an ambitious ruler and his devoted wife-sister. Though destroyed by earthquakes and pillaged for building stone, enough fragments survived to reconstruct its appearance and appreciate why it awed the ancient world. Caria and the Kingdom of Mausolus. Geographic and political context: Caria, southwestern Anatolia, modern Turkey. On the Aegean coast. Culturally hybrid Greek cities on the coast, indigenous Carian peoples inland. Strategic location between Greece and Persia. The Persian Empire. Caria was part of the vast Achaemenid Persian Empire c. 553–330 BCE. Persian kings appointed local rulers, satraps, to govern provinces. Satraps collected taxes, maintained order, and provided military forces. Some satraps were effectively independent kings under loose Persian oversight. The Hecatomnid dynasty. Hecatomnus, founder of the dynasty, became satrap of Caria around 395 BCE. Established a powerful local dynasty. Mausolus, RC 377 and 353 BCE, son of Hecatomnus, became satrap around 377 BCE. Ruled for about 24 years. Ambitious, cultured, and Hellenophile admirer of Greek culture. His achievements: political consolidation, expanded Carian territory, strengthened his position relative to Persia, built a powerful navy, participated in the satraps' revolt against Persia, but switched sides when expedient. Cultural patronage: admired Greek art, architecture, and culture, employed Greek artists and architects, promoted Greek language and customs, created a cultural hybrid Persian power with Greek aesthetics. His new capital, Halicarnassus, the city modern Bodrum, Turkey. Beautiful harbor on the Aegean. Mausolus moved the capital here from inland Mylasa. Urban development: Mausolus transformed Halicarnassus into a magnificent city. Wide streets laid out on a grid plan. Defensive walls, a grand palace. Temples, theaters, and public buildings. The city combined Greek planning with Oriental splendor. The population: Mausolus forcibly relocated populations from surrounding areas. This concentrated wealth and power in his capital. Halicarnassus became one of the region's most important cities. Artemisia II, wife, sister, queen. The relationship: Artemisia E2c, 370–350 BCE, Mausolus's younger sister. Married to Mausolus. Sibling marriage was a Persian royal custom. Company ruler with Mausolus, deeply devoted to her husband brother. Her character: intelligent and capable. Continued Mausolus's policies after his death. Strong ruler in her own right. Her devotion to Mausolus became legendary. Mausolus's death: 353 BCE. He died after ruling for about 24 years. The cause is unknown. Illness, probably. Artemisia was grief-stricken. The legendary grief: ancient sources tell dramatic stories drinking his ashes. According to some accounts, Artemisia had Mausolus's body cremated. She mixed his ashes with wine or water. She drank the mixture, consuming her husband, making herself his living tomb. This story is probably apocryphal, but illustrates her legendary devotion. Pining away, she supposedly mourned so intensely she died of grief within 2 years. Her health declined from sorrow. She died around 351 BCE. The monument: she commissioned the mausoleum as a monument to Mausolus. She may have begun it during his lifetime, or immediately after his death. She didn't live to see it completed. It became their shared tomb. The construction of the mausoleum. The design team: Artemisia, assembled the greatest Greek architects and sculptors. The architects Satyros and Pythias, Greek architects working in Caria. They designed the mausoleum's overall structure. They wrote a book about the project, now lost, but mentioned by Roman architect Vitruvius. Pythias also designed the temple of Athena Polias at Priene, which survives in ruins. The sculptors: Artemisia hired 4 of Greece's leading sculptors, Scopas of Paros famous for emotional, dynamic sculptures. Bryaxis known for expressive works. Leochares worked on Athens's monuments. Timotheus renowned sculptor. Each sculpted one side of the Mausoleum east to Scopas. North Bryaxis. South Leochares. West Timotheus. This competition among masters ensured the highest quality and stylistic variety. The structure of the Mausoleum was revolutionary, combining Greek and Persian elements. The plan reconstructed from ancient descriptions and archaeological evidence. The base, a massive rectangular podium platform. About 38 meters 125 feet by 32 meters 105 feet. About 13 meters 43 feet high. Made of local white marble. Solid masonry foundation. The colonnade Ionic order sitting on the base. A colonnade surrounded the structure, 36 columns, 9 on the front and back, 11 on the sides. Ionic capitals elegant with scroll-like volutes. About 12 meters 40 feet high. This was the Greek element, a classical peristyle. The pyramid above the colonnade, a stepped pyramid, 24 steps tapering to the apex. About 7 meters 23 feet high. This was the Persian/Oriental element. Pyramidal tombs were Near Eastern. The quadriga chariot sculpture at the very top, a massive sculpture. Mausolus and Artemisia in a 4-horse chariot. About 6 meters 20 feet high, symbolized their apotheosis, divine or heroic status. Total height about 45 meters 1048 feet, one of the tallest structures in the ancient world. The chambers, the burial chamber located within the podium underground, or within the base. Vaulted ceiling. Contained the sarcophagi of Mausolus and Artemisia. Access was sealed after burial. Additional chambers possibly for grave goods, offerings, or ceremonies. The interior layout is uncertain, never fully excavated. The sculptural decoration, the mausoleum was covered with sculpture, the sculptural programs, the podium, friezes showing mythological scenes. The Amazonomachy battle of Greeks vs Amazons. The Centauromachi battle of Lapiths vs Centaurs. These were traditional Greek themes symbolizing civilization vs barbarism. The colonnade, statues between the columns. Lions at the corners, Persian royal symbol. Possibly gods, heroes, and ancestors. The pyramid, decorative elements on the steps. Possibly more statues. The frieze details, the Amazonomachy frieze best preserved, shows Greeks fighting Amazons. Dynamic, violent action. Figures in various poses fighting, dying, triumphant. High-relief figures project dramatically from the background. Exceptional craftsmanship, detailed anatomy, flowing drapery, emotional expressions. Free-standing sculptures, life-size and larger-than-life statues. Possibly portraits of Mausolus's ancestors, gods and mythological figures. The overall effect was overwhelming richness. The materials and craftsmanship, marble, local white marble abundant in the region. Extremely fine quality, took high polish. The carving, exquisite detail, fingers, toenails, eyelashes. Realistic drapery, cloth appearing to cling to bodies. Emotional expressions. The wet drapery technique showing bodies through clinging fabric. The collaboration, 4 master sculptors, meant stylistic variety. But overall coherence, unified program, complementary styles. This harmony and diversity was part of the wonder. The construction process timeline begun around 353 BCE, Mausolus's death. Completed around 350 BCE, though some sources say it took longer. Artemisia died around 351 BCE before completion. The architects and sculptors finished it as a memorial to both. Labor, hundreds of workers, quarrymen, masons, sculptors, assistants. Specialized craftsmen, sculptors, architects, engineers. Years of intensive work. Cost enormous, exact figures unknown. Caria was wealthy, trade, agriculture, taxation. Artemisia spared no expense. The mausoleum in antiquity. Ancient reactions, the mausoleum immediately impressed visitors. Pliny the Elder, 1st century CE Roman natural historian, listed the mausoleum among the wonders. Provided measurements and descriptions. Praised the collaboration of 4 great sculptors. Vitruvius, 1st century BCE, Roman architect, mentioned the architect's book about the mausoleum. Discussed its design principles. Other sources, various Greek and Roman writers, mentioned it. All emphasized its beauty, scale, and artistic excellence. Why it impressed: the hybrid design, Greek and Persian elements, the sculptural abundance and quality, the unprecedented collaboration of master artists, the soaring height. The symbolism, a king and queen's eternal glory. Later history, Hellenistic and Roman periods, Halicarnassus remained an important city. The Mausoleum stood for about 1500 years. It survived Persia's fall. Alexander the Great conquered the region in 334 BCE. It survived Rome's conquest. Pirates sacked Halicarnassus in the 1st century CE, but apparently didn't damage the mausoleum. Early Christian period, the mausoleum still stood. Medieval period, earthquakes, the region is seismically active. Series of earthquakes in the 12th, 15th centuries. The mausoleum was progressively damaged. By the 15th century, it was a ruin. The Knights of St. John, the Crusader order, the Knights Hospitaller Knights of St. John occupied Halicarnassus in the early 15th century. They built the castle of St. Peter, now Bodrum Castle, at the harbor. Cannibalization 1494, 1522. The knights needed building stone. The mausoleum's ruins provided high-quality marble. They systematically dismantled the ruins. The marble was cut into blocks and incorporated into the castle walls and fortifications. The sculptural decorations were often destroyed, pagan images offensive to Christians, or used as fill. What they found: the burial chamber was opened, looted for treasure. The sarcophagi were probably destroyed. No trace of Mausolus or Artemisia's remains survived. Complete destruction by 1522, the mausoleum was completely gone. Only scattered fragments remained. The site was a quarry and rubble heap. All memory of its exact location was lost. Rediscovery and archaeology. Early modern period, 17th, 18th centuries, European travelers visited Halicarnassus. Some recognized ruins, but couldn't identify the mausoleum site. Fragments of sculpture were noticed embedded in castle walls. The British Museum expeditions, Charles Thomas Newton, 1850s, British archaeologist and diplomat, consul at Mytilene near Halicarnassus, determined to find the mausoleum. The excavations 1856-1857, Newton obtained permission from the Ottoman authorities. He excavated the site systematically. He identified the mausoleum's foundation. He recovered fragments of sculpture. The discoveries: architectural elements, foundation stones, column drums, fragments of the pyramid steps, enough to reconstruct the basic plan. Sculptures: the colossal statues, 2 large statues about 3 meters tall, identified as Mausolus and Artemisia, though this is debated. Mausolus shows a man in Persian dress with Greek facial features. Artemisia shows a woman in elegant Greek drapery. Both are masterpieces of Greek sculpture. The Amazonamaki frieze, large sections recovered, shows the battle in vivid detail. High artistic quality, probably by Scopas. Lion sculptures, guardian lions from the structure. Powerful, stylized. Other fragments, parts of the chariot group, horses' heads and legs. Human figures, architectural decorations. Removal to London. Newton shipped the sculptures to the British Museum, 1857-1858. They've been in the British Museum ever since. This was standard practice at the time. Ottoman Empire permitted archaeological removal. Modern debates about repatriation. The castle excavations, sculptures were also recovered from Bodrum Castle walls. Some had been broken up and used as fill. Others were incorporated into walls. The Danish Archaeological Institute has worked on these. What remains at the site: the foundation visible in Bodrum, a sunken area showing the mausoleum's plan. Minimal preservation. Modern buildings surround it. Reconstruction and understanding. How do we know what it looked like? The evidence: ancient descriptions, Pliny the Elder most detailed. Vitruvius, architectural principles. Other passing references. Archaeological evidence: the foundation plan and dimensions. Architectural fragments, columns, stairs, decorative elements. Sculptures showing the artistic style and themes. Comparative evidence: other Greek and Persian tombs. Greek temples for the colonnade. Persian monuments for the pyramid. The reconstructions, drawings and models. Scholars have proposed various reconstructions. No two agree on all details. The height, exact proportions, and decorative scheme are debated. Consensus: the basic structure, podium, colonnade, pyramid, chariot, is accepted. The approximate dimensions are known. The sculptural themes are clear. Uncertainties: the exact arrangement of sculptures. The interior layout. The details of the pyramid. The appearance of the quadriga. The British Museum display a reconstruction model. The surviving sculptures displayed. Visitors can see the Amazon Amaki frieze and the colossal statues. This is the closest we can get to experiencing the mausoleum. The legacy of the mausoleum. The word mausoleum, Mausolus's name, became the generic term for monumental tombs. Every grand tomb, since from Augustus's mausoleum in Rome to Lenin's mausoleum in Moscow to the Taj Mahal, owes linguistic debt to this monument. Architectural influence. Hybrid design. The combination of Greek and Oriental elements influenced later architecture. The concept of a temple tomb. The use of pyramidal forms. Later mausolea. Augustus's mausoleum, Rome, 28 BCE. Hadrian's mausoleum, Castel San Gelo, Rome, 135 CE. Countless others through history. Modern echoes. Grant's tomb, New York. The Vittorio Emanuele II monument, Rome. Various state capitals and monuments. The cultural significance. Love and devotion. Artemisia's devotion to Mausolus became proverbial. The mausoleum symbolized eternal love. This narrative, whether accurate or not, shaped how the monument was remembered. Royal ambition. The monument represented a ruler's aspiration to immortality. Mausolus achieved his goal, his name endures. The tension between pride and beauty, megalomania and art. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus stands as testament to human desires for glory, love's devotion, and the collaboration of artistic genius. Though the monument itself was destroyed, its influence shaped architecture for 2 millennia, and fragments preserved in museums allow us to glimpse the magnificence that once stood on the Aegean coast. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus was burned down by a man seeking fame through destruction, then rebuilt even more magnificently, only to be destroyed again. A story of human vanity, devotion, and the fragility of even the greatest monuments. This wonder honored the Greek goddess Artemis, though the cult was much older and stranger than the Greek deity, and its grandeur dazzled ancient visitors who proclaimed it the most beautiful of all the wonders. Ephesus and the cult of Artemis. The city Ephesus on the western coast of Anatolia, modern Turkey, near Selçuk. Greek colony founded around 1000 BCE, though the site was inhabited earlier. Strategically located on trade routes. Wealthy from commerce. One of the greatest Greek cities in Asia Minor. The harbor Ephesus was a major port, though the harbor gradually silted up over centuries. Connected the Aegean Sea to inland Anatolia. Trade brought wealth and cosmopolitan culture. The goddess Artemis of Ephesus was unique, not simply the Greek Artemis, virgin goddess of the hunt, wilderness, and childbirth. Apollo's twin sister, depicted as a young woman with bow and arrows, associated with the moon. Artemis of Ephesus, much older cult, pre-Greek, probably Anatolian. Fertility goddess. Depicted very differently, the famous cult statue showed a female figure covered with what were traditionally interpreted as multiple breasts, now thought to be bull testicles or eggs, symbols of fertility. The cult incorporated mystery elements. Eunuch priests served the goddess. The syncretism. When Greeks colonized Ephesus, they identified the local goddess with Artemis. But Artemis of Ephesus retained non-Greek characteristics. The cult was a hybrid Greek name, but Near Eastern essence. The importance. The cult was enormously popular. Pilgrims came from across the Mediterranean. The temple received lavish gifts and functioned as a bank. The goddess was believed to protect the city. The archaic temple, 7th-6th centuries BCE. Earlier temples. The site was sacred long before the famous temple. Earlier shrines and temples stood there. These were simpler structures. The Great Archaic Temple begun c. 550 BCE. The initiative. The Lydian king Croesus, famously wealthy, rich as Croesus, sponsored the temple. This was a gesture of piety and power. Greeks and Lydians collaborated. The architects Chersiphron of Knossos and his son Metagenes. Later, Theodorus of Samos. The design. Dipteral plan, 2 rows of columns around the cella inner chamber. This was innovative. Most temples had single colonnade. Created a forest of columns. Ionic order, elegant, with scroll-like capitals, volutes. Slender proportions. Graceful, feminine, appropriate for a goddess. The scale, about 115 meters, 377 feet long. About 55 meters, 180 feet, wide, 127 columns. Each column about 18 meters, 60 feet high. One of the largest temples in the Greek world. The construction challenges. The marshy ground. The site was swampy, deliberately chosen. Sacred springs. The foundation had to prevent sinking. Chersiphron used layers of charcoal and fleeces compressible, drainable, moving massive column drums. Some column drums weighed up to 24 tons. Chersiphron devised rolling cradles. The drums were rolled like wheels from the quarry. Raising columns hoisting 60-foot marble columns was extraordinarily difficult. Ramps, pulleys, and levers. Precise engineering. The sculptural decoration, the columnicality, sculptured columns. Some columns had sculptured reliefs at their bases. Croesus donated several. These showed mythological scenes. Fragments survive in the British Museum. Other decoration pediments, triangular gable ends, probably had sculpture. Painted elements, gold and ivory details. The cult statue, the famous multi-breasted or bull testicle festooned Artemis. Possibly made of wood, the Greeks called it a zonon. Covered with gold, silver, and precious materials. Strange and archaic appearance, not classical Greek naturalism. The completion, the temple was completed around 550 BCE. It stood for about 200 years. The fire of 356 BCE, Herostratus's infamy. The arsonist Herostratus, a nobody, desperate for fame. Ephesian citizen probably, realized that committing an outrageous crime would immortalize his name. The crime, July 21, 356 BCE, Herostratus set fire to the temple. The wooden roof and structural timbers burned. The fire destroyed the temple. The columns collapsed, the interior was ruined. The motivation, he explicitly stated he wanted eternal fame. He succeeded. His name is known 2300 plus years later. Though not the fame he hoped for, infamy, not glory. The punishment, Herostratus was captured and tortured. He was executed probably by torture. The Ephesians decreed that his name should never be spoken, damnatio memoriae. Anyone who mentioned his name would be punished. The irony, the decree failed. Historians recorded the story. Theopompus, Greek historian, preserved Herostratus's name. We remember him as the archetype of fame through destruction. Herostratic fame, notoriety through destructive acts. The legendary coincidence, tradition held that Artemis was absent from Ephesus the night of the fire. She was attending Alexander the Great's birth, also July 21, 356 BCE. This is certainly a later fabrication, making Alexander's birth miraculous. But it became part of the legend. The Hellenistic Temple, 356, 262 BCE and later. The rebuilding decision, the Ephesians were determined to rebuild even more magnificently. The financing, the city contributed. Individual donations, Ephesians and foreigners. The temple's own wealth, it functioned as a bank. Offerings and deposits survived the fire. Reportedly, Alexander the Great offered to finance the temple if he could be named as the builder. The Ephesians tactfully declined. Gods don't build temples for other gods, they said. The architect Cherocrates, later sources say Dinocrates, possibly the same person or Confucian Greek architect, also reportedly worked for Alexander. The plan, rebuild on the same site, use the same basic plan, but larger, taller, and more magnificent. The new temple, the podium, to make the temple taller and more impressive, it was raised on a stepped platform, about 2.7 meters high. The dimensions slightly larger than the archaic temple. About 125 meters forward, 10 feet long. About 65 meters 13 feet wide. The columns, 127 columns, same number as before. Each about 20 meters 65 feet high, taller than before. Some had sculptured bases again. The cella housed the cult statue, probably the same statue or a replacement. Richly decorated interior. Paintings by famous artists including Apelles, antiquity's most celebrated painter. The construction took many years. Sources vary, perhaps 120 years total, though this may include ongoing decoration. The basic structure was usable within decades. Decoration continued for generations. The temple in its glory. The visitor experience, approaching the temple from Ephesus. Pilgrims walked a sacred way. The temple rose before them, a forest of towering columns. The podium made it seem to float above the plain. Entering, passing between the columns, each massive, creating a sense of awe. The scent of incense. The sound of chanting and ritual. The glimpse of the cult statue within. The interior, dim temples weren't brightly lit. The cult statue, strange and powerful. Offerings piled around gold, silver, jewelry, statues. Priests performing rituals. The atmosphere sacred, mysterious, wealthy. The combination of Greek elegance and Near Eastern mysticism. The goddess's presence felt by devotees. The temple's functions, religious, daily rituals and offerings. Major festivals, processions, sacrifices, celebrations. Mystery rites, secret ceremonies for initiates. Economic, the temple functioned as a bank. People deposited valuables for safekeeping. Temples were secure, protected by religious sanction. The temple made loans. Enormous wealth accumulated. Political, asylum rights, fugitives who reached the temple were protected. This created diplomatic complexities. The temple was a political player. Cultural, the temple housed artworks. It was a museum of sorts. Tourists visited it, was famous even in antiquity. Ancient reactions. Antipater of Sidon, 2nd century BCE, Greek poet who compiled an early list of the 7 wonders, wrote that when he saw the temple, the other wonders lost their luster. He declared it the most magnificent. Pliny the Elder, Roman natural historian, described the temple in detail, emphasized its size and beauty, called it one of the supreme achievements. Strabo, geographer who visited Ephesus, described the temple and the cult. St. Paul's riot, 1st century CE, the Acts of the Apostles. New Testament describes Paul preaching in Ephesus. Silversmiths who made shrines of Artemis rioted. "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians," they shouted. This shows the cult's continued importance in the Roman period. The decline and destruction. The rise of Christianity. By the 4th century CE, Christianity was the Roman Empire's dominant religion. Pagan temples were closed or destroyed. The Artemis cult was suppressed. Ephesus became an important Christian city. Tradition held that the Virgin Mary lived there. The Council of Ephesus, 431 CE, was held there. The temple's fate, closure and looting. The temple was officially closed probably late 4th century. The gold and valuable materials were stripped. The cult statue was probably destroyed. Christian mobs may have attacked it. Destruction, earthquakes. Deliberate demolition for building materials. The harbor silted up. Ephesus declined as a port. The site was abandoned. Gradual disappearance. The marble was taken for building churches, houses. The site was buried under silt and earth. By medieval times, its location was forgotten. A swamp covered the area. Rediscovery and archaeology. The search, 19th century, British Museum wanted to find the temple. J.T. Wood, British engineer, searched for years. The discovery, 1869. After 7 years of excavation, Wood found the temple's remains, buried under 6 meters of silt. The foundation and scattered fragments. What was found? Architectural elements, foundation stones, column bases and drums, fragments of the sculptured column bases, parts of the podium, sculptures, pieces of the pediment sculptures, fragments of reliefs, architectural decorations, offerings, coins, jewelry and small votives, evidence of the temple's wealth and cultic importance. Removal. Wood shipped the sculptures to the British Museum. They're displayed there today, including some of the sculptured column drums. Later excavations. Austrian Archaeological Institute, 1960s onward. Further excavation and study. Better understanding of the temple's phases. What remains at the site? Very little. A single reconstructed column from fragments, erected in modern times. The foundation outline partially exposed. Swampy ground. A melancholy sight. The grandeur is entirely gone. The evocative absence. Visitors to Ephesus today see impressive Roman ruins, library, theater, streets. But the temple site is desolate. This emptiness is itself powerful. Imagination must fill the gap. Reconstructions and understanding. How do we know what it looked like? Ancient descriptions. Pliny, Strabo and others. Relatively detailed for some aspects. Archaeology. The foundation reveals the plan. Fragments show sculptural style. Comparisons with other Ionic temples. Coins. Ephesian coins often depicted the temple. Small, simplified images, but useful. The reconstructions, drawings and models based on evidence. Scholarly debates about details. The general appearance is accepted, specifics are uncertain. The legacy of the Temple of Artemis. Architectural influence. The dipteral plan, double colonnade. The Ionic order's elegance. The use of sculptured column bases. Cultural resonance. The Herostratus story, cautionary tale about fame. Destruction for notoriety, relevant to modern celebrity culture. Fame at any cost. The cult's strangeness, the multi-breasted Artemis statue became iconic, mysterious, exotic, symbolizes the syncretism of ancient religion, the otherness of ancient belief. The temple's beauty praised as the most beautiful wonder. This emphasizes aesthetics over engineering. Beauty as a form of wonder. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus reminds us of the fragility of beauty, the paradox of fame through destruction, and the human impulse to create monuments to the divine. It was burned, rebuilt more gloriously, and finally vanished, leaving only fragments and memory of what was once called the most beautiful structure the world had ever seen. Here we pause once more in our journey through the seven wonders. We have stood in awe before Phidias's magnificent statue of Zeus at Olympia, feeling the religious power that moved ancient pilgrims to tears. We have explored the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, the tomb so grand it gave its name to all grand tombs, symbol of love and ambition. And we have witnessed the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, burned for fame, rebuilt for glory, and eventually lost to time. As you drift toward sleep, imagine the ancient Mediterranean Zeus, enthroned in gold and ivory at Olympia, his divine presence filling the temple, Mausoleum and Artemisia's chariot crowning their magnificent tomb above Halicarnassus's harbor, and the forest of columns at Ephesus, the temple rising ethereal and beautiful, dedicated to a goddess who was both Greek and other, familiar and mysterious. When we continue, we will witness the final two wonders: the Colossus of Rhodes, the bronze giant that supposedly straddled a harbor, and the Lighthouse of Alexandria, the ancient world's tallest structure after the pyramids, guiding sailors safely home. We will also explore the engineering techniques that made these wonders possible, and reflect on what these ancient marvels reveal about human ambition, capability, and the desire for immortality through stone and bronze. But for now, rest. The wonders may be gone, but their memory endures: fragments in museums, descriptions in ancient texts, and the lingering sense of awe they created in all who saw them. The Colossus of Rhodes was the shortest-lived of the seven wonders, standing for only about 56 years before an earthquake toppled it, yet it captured the imagination like few others. A bronze statue of the sun god Helios, standing over 30 meters tall, it celebrated Rhodes's victory and freedom, demonstrating what human ambition and engineering could achieve. Though the popular image of its straddling Rhodes's harbor is almost certainly false, the reality was impressive enough to inspire awe for centuries after it fell. Rhodes and the siege of 305–34 BCE. The island of Rhodes' geographic position, large island off the southwestern coast of Anatolia, modern Turkey. Strategic location controlling sea routes between the Aegean and Eastern Mediterranean. Natural harbors making it an important naval and commercial center. Fertile, prosperous, and beautiful. The city of Rhodes, founded in 408 BCE through Synocism merger of three older cities. Planned city with grid layout designed by Hippodamus of Miletus. Sophisticated urban planning: sewers, water system, wide streets. Beautiful buildings and public spaces. Wealthy from trade, a major commercial hub. Political position: independent Greek city-state. Powerful navy. Member of various alliances but fiercely protective of independence. Democratic government though dominated by merchant elite. The Diadochi Wars after Alexander the Great's death, 323 BCE. His generals, the Diadochi, successors, fought for control of his empire. The main players: Ptolemy controlled Egypt. Antigonus I Monophthalmus one-eyed, and his son Demetrius Poliorcetes, besieger of cities, controlled much of Asia Minor and aspired to reunite Alexander's empire. Seleucus controlled Mesopotamia and Persia. Cassander controlled Macedon and Greece. Rhodes's dilemma: Rhodes tried to remain neutral, preferred trade to war. But neutrality was impossible, the successors demanded allegiance. Rhodes leaned toward Ptolemy, economic ties with Egypt, grain trade. This angered Antigonus and Demetrius. The siege, 3534 BCE, Demetrius Poliorcetes decided to punish Rhodes. The invasion, 305 BCE, Demetrius arrived with a massive army and fleet. Perhaps 40,000 soldiers and 200 warships, numbers vary in sources. He demanded Rhodes break with Ptolemy and join Antigonus. Rhodes refused. The siege began. Demetrius was history's greatest siege warfare specialist, hence his epithet besieger. He deployed innovative siege engines. The Helepolis, taker of cities, a massive siege tower, 9 stories tall, about 40 meters / 130 feet, on wheels protected with metal plates, held catapults, battering rams, and soldiers. The largest siege engine ever built to that point. Other siege weapons: catapults hurling massive stones, battering rams, siege ramps, attempts to undermine walls with tunnels. Rhodian resistance, the defense. The Rhodians fought with desperate courage. They built counter walls, they used fire and counterattacks. They flooded areas to prevent the Helepolis from advancing. They freed slaves and promised citizenship, swelling the defenders' numbers. Ptolemy's aid: Egypt sent supplies and reinforcements by sea. This sustained Rhodes's resistance. The siege drags on months past. Demetrius couldn't break the defenses. The cost was enormous. His father Antigonus needed him elsewhere. The negotiated peace 34 BCE. The settlement. Rhodes agreed to ally with Antigonus against everyone except Ptolemy, saving for Demetrius. Demetrius withdrew. Rhodes was essentially victorious. It kept its independence and Ptolemaic alliance. The spoils: Demetrius abandoned his siege equipment, too expensive to transport. The Rhodians sold it for an enormous sum. They used the money to finance the Colossus. The symbolic meaning: the Colossus would celebrate freedom. It would honor Helios, the sun god, patron of Rhodes. It would show Rhodes's wealth, power, and gratitude to the gods. Chairs of Lindos and the construction. The sculptor: Chairs of Lindos, Rhodian sculptor from Lindos, one of Rhodes's ancient cities. Student of Lysippos, one of Alexander the Great's favorite sculptors. Specialized in large-scale works. Commissioned to create the Colossus. The design: the statue depicted Helios, the sun god, patron deity of Rhodes. Young beardless man, typical for sun deities. Nude or lightly draped, Greek heroic nudity. Crown of sun rays, like later depictions of Apollo, or the crown on the Statue of Liberty, which was partly inspired by the Colossus. The pose: not straddling the harbor. Medieval and Renaissance sources imagined the Colossus with legs apart, straddling the harbor entrance. Ships would sail between his legs. This is almost certainly false, structurally impossible with ancient technology. No ancient source describes this pose. It probably developed from misreading Pliny the Elder's phrase about ships sailing beneath the fallen statue, meaning past it, not under it, while standing. The likely pose: standing upright, legs together or with one leg slightly advanced. One arm raised, possibly shading eyes, looking toward the sea, or holding a torch/spear. The other arm at side or holding something, possibly a cloak. Facing the sea, looking outward, protecting the harbor. The location: where did it stand? This is debated. Possibilities include the Acropolis overlooking the harbor. Near the harbor entrance but on land, not straddling it. The Temple of Helios area. Most likely, somewhere near the harbor where it could be seen by arriving ships but on solid ground with a substantial foundation. The materials: bronze. The statue was made of bronze, a copper tin alloy. Enormous quantities required. Sources say about 15 tons, though this seems low for a 30+ meter statue. Bronze was cast in sections, then assembled. Iron and stone: iron framework inside for structural support. Stone foundation and possibly internal stone core. Wood for temporary scaffolding. The construction technique: how do you build a 30-meter bronze statue? The lost wax casting for details. Small elements were cast using lost wax technique. A wax model is covered in clay mold. The mold is heated, melting out the wax. Molten bronze is poured in, filling the space. After cooling, the mold is broken, revealing the bronze. But for large elements, the body was probably cast in large hollow sections. These sections were joined together. Seams were smoothed and finished. Assembly from the bottom up, the foundation: massive stone platform, anchored deep in bedrock. Building upward, the legs and lower body were cast and assembled first. As the statue grew, an earth ramp was built around it. This ramp allowed workers to reach higher sections. Each new section was lifted into place and joined. The internal iron framework supported the bronze shell. The earth ramp: as the statue grew taller, the ramp grew higher. Eventually, the statue was surrounded by a hill of earth. Only when complete was the earth removed, revealing the statue. The interior: hollow bronze shell. Solid bronze would be impossibly heavy. Internal iron armature framework. Stone fill in the lower portions for stability and weight at the base. Possible internal stairs or ladders speculative, but plausible for maintenance. The timeline construction began around 292 BCE. Duration 12 years according to Pliny the Elder. Completion around 280 BCE. The workforce, hundreds of workers, metalworkers, stonemasons, laborers. Chairs supervised. Enormous logistical challenge organizing labor, materials, construction sequence. The cost 300 talents of silver from selling Demetrius's siege equipment. A staggering sum of talent was about 26 kgs of silver, so about 7,800 kg total. Equivalent to several years of a city's tax revenue. The Colossus in its glory. The dimensions: height about 33 meters 108 feet, ancient sources say 70 cubits, and a cubit varied but averaged about 45-50 cm. Comparison: taller than any modern statue until the 19th century. About as tall as the Statue of Liberty from feet to torch. The Liberty's pedestal makes the total height much greater. One of the tallest statues in the ancient world. The appearance: the bronze skin, gleaming in the Mediterranean sun, possibly patinated, developing a greenish surface over time, like all bronze. Visible from miles away, a landmark for sailors. The sun ray crown radiating beams like a halo or corona, symbolizing Helios's solar nature. Catching the light, the muscular body, idealized Greek male physique, heroic, powerful, divine. The gaze looking out to sea, protective, vigilant. Welcoming to friends, warning to enemies. The impact on viewers arriving by sea. Sailors approaching Rhodes would see the Colossus from afar. As they neared, it would loom larger. Its scale would become overwhelming, a symbol of Rhodes's power and divine protection. The sense of awe: ancient sources emphasized the statue's majesty. It demonstrated human capability to create something godlike. It was both art and engineering marvel. The symbolic meaning: Helios, the sun god who brought light and life. Associated with Rhodes, the island was sacred to him. Protector and patron. Victory and freedom: the statue celebrated Rhodes's successful resistance. It proclaimed independence. It was a permanent monument to a moment of triumph. Civic pride: Rhodes had created something extraordinary. It announced the city's wealth, power, and cultural sophistication. It put Rhodes on the map. Literally, it became famous across the Mediterranean. The earthquake of 226 BCE. The short lifespan: the Colossus stood for only about 56 years. The earthquake C2 226 BCE, a major earthquake struck Rhodes. The island suffered severe damage. Much of the city was destroyed. Thousands died. The Colossus fell. The earthquake snapped the statue at the knees. It toppled forward or to the side. The bronze body broke into large pieces. It lay where it fell. Why so vulnerable? Engineering challenges. Supporting a 30+ meter bronze statue was at the limit of ancient technology. Any structural weakness would be catastrophic. Earthquakes are particularly destructive to tall, heavy structures. The Aegean is seismically active. Earthquakes are common. Possible design flaws: the statue may have been inherently unstable. The internal armature might have been insufficient. The foundation might have been inadequate. Ancient sources mention the statue swayed, suggesting structural flex, possibly intentional to absorb wind/seismic stress, but also indicating vulnerability. The oracle's warning. The decision not to rebuild: the Rhodians wanted to rebuild. They sought help from allies. Ptolemy III of Egypt offered to finance reconstruction. The money was available. The will was there. The Oracle of Delphi: the Rhodians consulted the oracle, standard practice for major decisions. The oracle's response: according to tradition, do not re-erect the Colossus. The exact wording varies in sources, but the message was clear. The gods did not want it rebuilt. Why would the gods object? Possible interpretations: the earthquake was divine judgment. The statue had offended the gods, perhaps by its hubris. Re-erecting it would invite further disaster. The gods had sent a message: ignoring it would be dangerous. Practical considerations: the earthquake had devastated Rhodes. Resources were needed for rebuilding the city. Perhaps the priests recognized rebuilding the Colossus was impractical. The oracle's prohibition prevented wasteful expenditure. The decision: Rhodes accepted the oracle's decree. The Colossus would not be rebuilt. The fragments remained where they fell. The fallen Colossus, 8 centuries of ruins. The ruins became a tourist attraction. The broken statue lay in place for about 800 years. What remained? Large bronze fragments. Huge pieces of legs, torso, arms, head. Some pieces were intact enough to show the statue's quality. The crown of sun rays. Sections revealing the hollow interior and iron framework. Ancient tourists Pliny the Elder 1st century CE visited Rhodes or learned from those who did. Described the ruins. Noted that few people could wrap their arms around the statue's thumb. The broken pieces were themselves wonders. Strabo mentioned the fallen Colossus. Described it as one of the wonders despite being ruined. Other travelers for centuries, visitors came to Rhodes partly to see the famous ruins. The fallen Colossus was a memento mori reminder of mortality and a testament to both human achievement and its fragility. Why leave it in place? The oracle's prohibition primarily, but also practical. The bronze was enormously valuable. But the pieces were massive and difficult to move. Cutting them up would be laborious. The Rhodians may have preferred to leave them as a memorial. Religious respect, the statue was sacred, dedicated to Helios. Disturbing it might offend the god. Better to leave it as the god/earthquake had placed it. The Arab conquest and final destruction. The Arab raids 7th century CE. By the 7th century, the Roman Empire, now Byzantine, was weakening. Arab expansion. Arab forces conquered much of the Middle East and Mediterranean. Rhodes was raided multiple times. The decisive raid 654 CE. Muawiyah I, later the founder of the Umayyad Caliphate, captured Rhodes. The bronze was too valuable to leave. Arab forces systematically dismantled the ruins. The bronze fragments were broken into transportable pieces. According to tradition, it took 900 camels to carry away the bronze. The destination: the bronze was taken to the mainland, Syria or Arabia. It was melted down and repurposed, possibly made into coins, weapons, or other items. This is the last certain reference to the Colossus. The complete disappearance after 654 CE. Nothing of the Colossus remained. The stone foundation was probably reused for buildings. The site was forgotten or repurposed. No trace survives. What we know and don't know. Our sources: ancient descriptions, Pliny the Elder most detailed, Strabo, Philon of Byzantium in his list of wonders. Various other passing references. Medieval sources, often embellished or inaccurate. The straddling the harbor image appears in medieval texts. Archaeology: no remains have been definitively identified. The site is uncertain. Any foundation would be deeply buried or destroyed. What we know: it was about 33 meters tall. Made of bronze over an iron framework. Depicted Helios, stood for 56 years. Fell in an earthquake. Lay in ruins for 800 years. Was finally broken up and removed. What we don't know: the exact location. The precise appearance, pose, facial features, details. The exact construction technique. What it really looked like. All reconstructions are speculative. Reconstructions and modern imagination. Artistic reconstructions, medieval and Renaissance images, often showed the Colossus straddling the harbor. Ships sailing between the legs. These images were imaginative, not historical. Modern reconstructions, based on better scholarship, usually show an upright figure on land, vary in details but more historically plausible. The challenge: without physical remains or detailed descriptions, accuracy is impossible. Artists must make educated guesses. Different reconstructions look quite different. Modern proposals rebuild the Colossus. 21st century proposals: various architects and groups have proposed rebuilding the Colossus. Modern engineering could do it easily, compared to ancient challenges. It could be a tourist attraction. The arguments for: restore a wonder, boost tourism, celebrate Rhodian heritage. The arguments against the ancient site is uncertain. It would be a modern replica, not the ancient wonder. The oracle said not to rebuild. Do we respect ancient religious prohibitions? The cost could be used for more pressing needs. So far, none of the proposals have been realized. The legacy of the Colossus. Cultural impact: the word Colossus originally meant any large statue. The Rhodes Colossus made it synonymous with gigantic scale. We still use it: the Colosseum, colossal, etc. Inspiration for later statues: the Statue of Liberty. 1886, French sculptor Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi was inspired by the Colossus. Similar concept: large statue welcoming ships to harbor. Similar symbolism: freedom, enlightenment. The sun ray crown echoes the Colossus's corona. Modern engineering iron framework designed by Gustav Eiffel made it possible. Other large statues: Christ the Redeemer, Rio de Janeiro. Statue of Unity, India, currently the world's tallest statue at 182 meters. Many others trace conceptual lineage to the Colossus. Engineering influenced the challenge of creating monumental statuary. Techniques for bronze casting, framework construction, and assembly. Inspiration for architects and engineers. Literary and artistic references: Shakespeare, why, man, he doth bestride the narrow world / like a Colossus, Julius Caesar. Countless paintings, poems, and novels. Symbol of hubris, achievement, and fall. The paradox: the Colossus's fame grew after its fall. It became more legendary in ruins than it might have been standing. Its destruction made it immortal in imagination. The Colossus of Rhodes represents the audacity of human ambition, creating a monument so massive, it seemed to challenge the gods, only to have the gods or nature remind humanity of its limits. Yet even in failure and destruction, the Colossus achieved a kind of immortality, inspiring wonder not just for what it was, but for what it represents: the drive to create something greater than ourselves, even if earthquakes eventually bring it down. The Lighthouse of Alexandria, the Pharaohs, was the youngest of the 7 wonders, and the most practical: not a temple, tomb, or artistic monument, but a functional structure that guided ships safely to harbor while also proclaiming Alexandria's wealth and technological prowess. Standing for over 1,500 years, it was one of the longest surviving wonders and remained the world's tallest lighthouse until modern times. Alexandria and the Ptolemaic Kingdom. The founding of Alexandria: Alexander the Great, 356–323 BCE, the conqueror, Macedonian king who conquered the known world. By age 30, he ruled from Greece to India. Created the largest empire to that date. The city founded 331 BCE, the location: Egypt's Mediterranean coast, west of the Nile Delta. A strip of land between the Mediterranean and Lake Merodes. Natural advantages: harbors, access to Nile, defensible position. Alexander's vision: a great city connecting Europe, Africa, and Asia. A cultural and commercial center. Greek in character but cosmopolitan in reality. The design planned by Dinocrates of Rhodes, the architect. Grid layout: Hippodamian plan. Wide streets and public spaces. Defensive walls. Alexander's death, 323 BCE. He died before seeing Alexandria flourish. His body was brought to Alexandria and entombed there. The tomb's location is now lost. The Ptolemaic dynasty: Ptolemy I Soter, R 323–282 BCE, one of Alexander's generals, seized Egypt after Alexander's death. Founded the Ptolemaic dynasty, ruled Egypt until Roman conquest in 30 BCE. Alexandria's growth: Ptolemy I and his successors made Alexandria their capital. It rapidly became one of the world's greatest cities. Cultural achievements: the Library of Alexandria, founded by Ptolemy I or his son Ptolemy II. The ancient world's greatest library, hundreds of thousands of scrolls. Center of learning and scholarship. Attracted philosophers, scientists, poets, mathematicians. The Mausoleum Museum Research Institute attached to the library. Scholars lived, studied, and taught there. Groundbreaking work in mathematics: Euclid, astronomy: Aristarchus, geography: Eratosthenes, medicine, and more. Cosmopolitan culture: Greeks, Egyptians, Jews, and others. Multilingual, multi-religious. Tolerance and cultural exchange. Alexandria became synonymous with learning and sophistication. Economic power: trade. Alexandria's harbors connected Mediterranean to Red Sea via Nile and canals. Trade with Europe, Africa, Arabia, India. Grain exports: Egypt's agricultural wealth. Luxury goods: papyrus, glass, textiles. Wealth: the Ptolemaic kingdom was fabulously wealthy, could afford monumental projects, competed with other Hellenistic kingdoms in cultural and architectural patronage. The harbor and its challenges. The Great Harbor, the configuration: Alexandria had 2 harbors, the Great Harbor to the east, the Eunastos to the west. The Great Harbor was the main commercial port. The island of Pharos, a small island off the coast. The name Pharos would become synonymous with lighthouse. The Heptastadion, a causeway mole connecting Pharos to the mainland. About 7 stadia long, hence Heptastadion, 7 stadia, roughly 1,200 meters. This created two harbors, one on each side of the causeway. The challenge for sailors, the dangerous coast, the Egyptian coast is low and featureless. Difficult to navigate, no prominent landmarks. Submerged rocks and reefs. Violent storms could drive ships onto the coast. The need for a lighthouse. Sailors needed to identify Alexandria from afar. They needed guidance into the harbors. A prominent landmark would save lives and ships. This was both humanitarian and economic. Shipwrecks meant lost cargo and revenue. The decision to build. Ptolemy I Soter, or possibly Ptolemy II Philadelphus. Sources disagree. The commission Ptolemy decided to build the world's tallest lighthouse. It would serve practical purposes, guiding ships. It would also be propaganda, showing Alexandria's wealth and technological prowess. It would be a wonder worthy of the greatest city. Sostratus of Cnidus, the architect/engineer, Greek architect and engineer from Cnidus, Asia Minor, friend of Ptolemy, renowned for hydraulic engineering and large-scale projects. His role: designed the lighthouse, supervised construction, possibly also financed part of it. Sources suggest he was wealthy. The dedication: Sostratus wanted credit for his work, but royal protocol required dedicating monuments to the king. According to legend, possibly apocryphal, Sostratus inscribed his name on the lighthouse's base, then covered it with plaster on which the king's dedication was written. Eventually, the plaster fell away, revealing Sostratus's name underneath. True or not, the story reflects the tension between artist and patron. The construction. The timeline begun around 3280 BCE. Sources vary. Completed around 280–247 BCE. Again, sources vary, possibly as late as the reign of Ptolemy II Philadelphus. Duration: perhaps 12–20 years. The materials: limestone, the primary structural material. Local limestone from Egyptian quarries. Large blocks for strength and stability. Granite used for columns and decorative elements. Probably from Aswan, as with pyramids. Transported by barge. White marble for cladding and decoration. Imported from Greek quarries. Made the lighthouse gleam in the sun. Bronze and glass for the mirror/reflector system. For ornamental details. The design and structure: 3 tiers. The lighthouse had 3 distinct sections stacked in diminishing size. The square base, lowest tier, massive square structure. About 55–60 meters tall. Sources vary. Each side about 30 meters wide. Contained perhaps 300 rooms for storage, soldiers' quarters, fuel for the light, possibly accommodations for keepers and their families. Windows for light and ventilation. Ramp or stairs inside, allowing fuel and materials to be transported up. The octagonal middle section about 30–35 meters tall. 8 sides octagonal. Narrower than the base. Continued the internal ramp/stairs. Windows and decorative elements. The cylindrical top section about 15 meters tall. Circular. This section housed the light. Topped with a statue, probably of Zeus, Soter, or Poseidon. The total height: ancient sources give varying measurements. Probably about 100 and 130 meters, 330–430 feet. Some sources claim even taller, up to 150 meters. If at the higher estimates, it was the second tallest structure in the ancient world, after the Great Pyramid. The foundation: the challenge, building on Pharaoh's Island's rocky ground. Foundation had to support immense weight. Exposure to sea water, waves, and storms. The solution: massive stone blocks on bedrock, possibly underwater. Foundation's parts extended into the sea. Lead jointed stones, molten lead, poured into joints for watertight seal and stability. The light: how did it work? The fire: a large fire burned at the top in the cylindrical section. Fuel: wood, enormous quantities required, transported up daily. Tended by keepers, dangerous, hot work. The reflector system: the mirror behind the fire, a mirror reflected and focused the light. Probably bronze polished to mirror finish, possibly curved parabolic to focus the beam. This amplified the firelight, making it visible from great distances. The range: ancient sources claim the light was visible from 30–50 kilometers, 20–30 miles at sea. This is plausible with a large fire and effective reflector. The height helped light travels farther from elevation. Daytime: during daylight, the lighthouse was still useful, a visible landmark. The smoke from the fire was visible. The sun reflected off the white marble, making it gleam. The statue crowning the lighthouse, a large statue 7+ meters tall. Probably Zeus, Soter Zeus the savior, or Poseidon, god of the sea. Possibly Ptolemy deified, bronze or stone. Visible from afar, a symbol of divine protection. The lighthouse in use. The functional purpose, guiding ships. Sailors approaching Alexandria saw the light from afar. They could orient themselves and navigate safely. The lighthouse prevented shipwrecks on the treacherous coast. It made Alexandria's harbor the safest in the Mediterranean. The economic impact: more ships meant more trade. Alexandria's commercial dominance grew. The lighthouse paid for itself many times over in saved cargo and increased trade. Military use: the lighthouse served as a watchtower. Soldiers could spot approaching ships, friend or foe. Signal fires could be lit to warn the city. It was a defensive structure as well as a navigational aid. The symbolic significance: Alexandria's greatness. The lighthouse proclaimed Alexandria's status. It was a technological marvel, the tallest lighthouse ever built. It showed Ptolemaic power and wealth. It was a landmark known across the Mediterranean. Cultural impact: visitors and tourists. Like the other wonders, the lighthouse attracted visitors. Scholars, merchants, and travelers came to see it. Descriptions spread its fame. Literary references: poets wrote about it. Historians mentioned it. It appeared in art, coins, mosaics, drawings. The word pharaohs became a generic term for lighthouse in several languages. Greek pharaohs. Romance languages: fair French, Pharaoh Italian/Spanish/Portuguese. The island's name became synonymous with lighthouse. The long survival and gradual decline. The lighthouse stood for over 1,500 years, one of the longest surviving wonders. The Roman period: Rome conquered Egypt, 30 BCE. Cleopatra VII, last Ptolemaic ruler, was defeated. Egypt became a Roman province. Alexandria remained a major city. The lighthouse continued functioning. Maintenance and repairs: the Romans maintained the lighthouse. Repairs after storm damage or earthquakes. The structure was valued and preserved. Julius Caesar's visit: Caesar visited Alexandria, 48-47 BCE. He saw the lighthouse. It was already over 200 years old, but still impressive. Early Christian period: Christianity's rise. Alexandria became a major Christian center. The lighthouse continued operating. Monks may have lived in or near it. The statue, the pagan statue, was probably removed or destroyed, possibly replaced with a Christian cross or saint. The structure's function remained secular, guiding ships. Early medieval period: Arab conquest. 641 CE, Arabs conquered Egypt. Alexandria declined. Cairo became the capital. But the lighthouse still stood. Arab sources: Arab historians described the lighthouse. Ibn Jubayr, 12th century, visited and described it in detail. By his time it showed age but was still functional. The earthquakes: the lighthouse's eventual destruction, not a single catastrophic event but a series of earthquakes. The 10th-11th centuries earthquakes damaged the top section. The cylindrical top and statue fell. Repairs were attempted but incomplete. The 12th-13th centuries further earthquakes: the region is seismically active. More sections collapsed. By the 13th century, only the square base remained. The 14th century, the final major earthquake, 1303 or 1323, sources vary. The remaining structure was severely damaged. The lighthouse was ruined. The final disappearance: the Mamluk fort. 1480, Sultan Qaitbay, Mamluk Sultan of Egypt, built a fortress on Pharaoh's Island to defend Alexandria. Used the lighthouse ruins as a quarry. The limestone blocks were incorporated into the fort. Fort Qaitbay stands today on the lighthouse's former site. Built with stones from the lighthouse. Visible evidence of the lighthouse's destruction. Complete disappearance by the 16th century, nothing of the lighthouse remained above ground. Stones had been taken. The site was repurposed. Only descriptions and memories survived. Rediscovery and underwater archaeology. The lost site for centuries, the lighthouse's exact location was uncertain. Fort Qaitbay marked the general area, but details were lost. Modern rediscovery. The 1960s, 1990s archaeologists and historians studied ancient descriptions. The site was identified as beneath and around Fort Qaitbay. Underwater archaeology. 1990s, present Jean-Yves Empereur, French archaeologist, led underwater excavations in Alexandria's eastern harbor, discovered massive stone blocks on the seafloor. The discovery's architectural elements, huge limestone and granite blocks, some weighing up to 75 tons, column drums, architectural decorations, foundation stones, sculptures, sphinxes, statues possibly including pieces of the crowning statue, fragments of reliefs, the mapping, over 3,000 architectural fragments catalogued, computer modeling attempts to reconstruct the lighthouse. The underwater site is now protected. What was learned confirmation, the lighthouse definitely stood at this location. The scale and grandeur were confirmed. The construction techniques were revealed. The foundation massive, sophisticated engineering. The base extended underwater. Lead jointed blocks for water resistance. The collapse evidence of seismic damage. Blocks toppled into the sea. The ruins gradually sank or were submerged by sea level changes. Reconstructions and understanding. Our sources' ancient descriptions. Strabo visited Alexandria, described the lighthouse. Pliny the Elder. Josephus, Jewish historian. Arab travelers and historians, especially Ibn Jubayr. Images, coins and medallions showing the lighthouse. Mosaics, a famous one from Libya shows a detail. These are stylized but give a general idea. Archaeology, the underwater remains. Fragments in museums. Fort Catebay built with lighthouse stones. Modern reconstructions, scholarly models based on descriptions and archaeology, show the three-tiered structure. Vary in details, exact proportions, decorations, etc. Computer reconstructions, 3D models based on the evidence. Allow virtual tours. Help visualize the structure. The consensus, the basic form is agreed upon: square base, octagonal middle, cylindrical top. Height approximately 100 and 130 meters. The light and reflector system functioned as described. Specific details remain uncertain. The legacy of the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Practical legacy, the model for all lighthouses. The pharaohs established the concept of a tall tower with a light. All later lighthouses follow this basic model. The three-tiered design influenced some later lighthouses. Technological inspiration. The reflector system using mirrors to amplify light. The engineering of tall coastal structures. The combination of function and monumentality. Cultural legacy, the word pharaohs. Languages across the Mediterranean use variants of pharaohs for lighthouse. The island's name became the generic term. Symbol of guidance and safety, lighthouses symbolize hope, guidance, and safe harbor. This symbolism traces to the pharaohs. Alexandria's golden age, the lighthouse represents the city's cultural and scientific peak. It's associated with the library, the Mausoleum, and Hellenistic learning. Modern interest, UNESCO, the underwater remains are protected. Proposals to create an underwater museum. Tourism, Fort Catebay attracts visitors. The lighthouse's story is part of Alexandria's heritage. Popular culture, the lighthouse appears in novels, films, and games. Symbol of the ancient world's technological achievement. The Lighthouse of Alexandria represents humanity's practical ingenuity, not just creating monuments for glory or worship, but building something genuinely useful that saved lives while also inspiring awe. For over 1,500 years, it guided sailors home, its light piercing the darkness and declaring that Alexandria, city of learning and commerce, welcomed all who sought its harbor. Here we pause once more in our journey through the seven wonders. We have witnessed the Colossus of Rhodes, the bronze giant that proclaimed Rhodian freedom before falling to earthquake's fury. We have ascended the Lighthouse of Alexandria, the pharaohs, seeing how practical purpose and monumental ambition could unite in a structure that guided ships for over 15 centuries. As you drift toward sleep, imagine the ancient Mediterranean, the Colossus towering over Rhodes's harbor, sun rays gleaming, before the earth shook and brought it down, and the Lighthouse of Alexandria, its fire burning through the night, bronze mirror reflecting the flames seaward, guiding sailors safely to harbor, while far below in the library, scholars debated mathematics and philosophy, creating a golden age of learning. When we conclude, we will explore how these wonders were built, the engineering techniques, the labor forces, the challenges overcome. We will examine why most wonders were destroyed by earthquakes, fires, human vandalism, and time. And we will reflect on what the seven wonders reveal about human ambition, creativity, and the desire to create something that transcends our brief lives. But for now, rest. The wonders may be gone, but the human impulse that created them remains, the drive to build, to achieve, to make something magnificent that will echo through the ages. The seven wonders were not merely beautiful or grand, they were engineering marvels that pushed the boundaries of what ancient technology could achieve. Understanding how they were built reveals the ingenuity, mathematical knowledge, organizational capacity, and sheer determination of ancient civilizations. These achievements were accomplished without modern machinery, computers, or even accurate clocks, using only human and animal power, simple tools, and brilliant problem solving. The fundamental technologies. Before examining individual wonders, we must understand the tools and techniques available to ancient builders, basic tools and materials, stone working, quarrying copper, and bronze tools. Iron came later and was expensive. Stone hammers, dolerite for hard stones like granite. Wooden wedges inserted in cracks, soaked with water to expand and split stone. Fire setting, heating rock, then quickly cooling it to create fractures. Shaping and finishing, chisels and hammers for rough shaping. Abrasive sand for smoothing and polishing. Water and sand slurries for cutting and grinding. Bow drills for drilling holes. Astonishing precision achieved through patience and skill. Bronze casting, the lost wax technique, create a wax model. Cover with clay mold. Heat to melt out the wax, leaving a cavity. Pour molten bronze into the cavity. Break the mold to reveal the bronze cast. This works for small to medium objects. Large bronze works like the Colossus, casting in sections. Joining sections with rivets, solder, or mechanical joints. Creating internal armatures, frameworks for support. Mathematics and geometry, the ancient knowledge, Egyptian mathematics, practical geometry for surveying and construction. The 3-4-5 triangle for creating right angles, calculating areas and volumes. The Rhind mathematical papyrus shows sophisticated problem solving. Greek mathematics, theoretical and practical. Pythagoras, Euclid, and others developed geometric principles. Understanding of proportions, ratios, and symmetry. Archimedes' work on levers, pulleys, and water displacement. Measurement and surveying using stakes, ropes, and plumb bobs. Water levels, channels of water to establish horizontal planes. Astronomical observations for alignment, remarkable precision achieved with simple tools. Labor organization, the workforce, skilled workers, architects, and engineers educated, often elite. Master craftsmen, stonemasons, sculptors, metalworkers. Specialized workers, each with specific expertise. Semi-skilled and unskilled labor for pyramids. Egyptian corvée labor, seasonal workers during flood season, when farming was impossible. For Greek monuments, paid workers and slaves. Organization into teams and gangs. The numbers, large monuments required thousands of workers. The Great Pyramid, perhaps 20,000, 100,000, depending on season. The coordination was an achievement in itself. Logistics, feeding and housing workers. Providing tools and materials. Managing work schedules. Maintaining order and morale. Moving massive objects, the challenge. Many wonders used stones weighing tens of tons. These had to be moved from quarries to construction sites. Then lifted into position. The techniques, sledges, wooden sleds carrying heavy loads. Pulled by teams of workers or possibly oxen. Sand wetted to reduce friction. Recent experiments confirm this worked. Rollers, logs sometimes used, though evidence is limited. Boats and barges for long distances. Water transport was easier. Barges carried stones on rivers or along coasts. The Nile was ideal for transporting pyramid stones. Mediterranean shipping for Greek monuments. Ramps, inclined planes allowing workers to drag loads upward. Essential for pyramid construction. Various theories about ramp configuration: straight, spiral, internal, removed after construction. Levers and pulleys, Archimedes' principle: give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world. Levers, simple wooden beams used as levers. Allowed small forces to move heavy objects. Incremental lifting: lift a bit, block, lift again. Pulleys and cranes, block and tackle systems, multiple pulleys reducing force needed. Greeks developed sophisticated cranes. Lewis holes, dovetail-shaped holes in stones for lifting with tongs. Human or animal power treadwheels. Precision alignment and construction, achieving accuracy. The Great Pyramid's precision, aligned to cardinal directions within 3/60th of a degree. Base level to within 2 cm across 230 meters. This required sophisticated surveying. The techniques: astronomical observation, using stars to find true north; water channels filled with water to establish level; careful measurement and constant checking; masters trained in geometric principles; structural engineering, understanding forces, compression and weight distribution. Pyramids are stable weight distributed downward and outward. Arches and vaults distribute weight efficiently. Corbelling overlapping stones for roofs and galleries. The Greeks understanding post and lintel construction, columns and horizontal beams. Proportions to prevent collapse. Entasis slight curve in columns to correct optical illusions. Understanding of how stone and bronze behave under stress. Innovations: iron clamps joining stones. Lead poured into joints for strength and waterproofing. Foundations extending deep for stability. Case studies: how specific wonders were built. The Great Pyramid, the challenge is 2.3 million stone blocks. Precise alignment. Lifting blocks to 140 plus meters. Creating internal chambers and passages. The solutions reconstructed from evidence and experimentation, quarrying local limestone for core blocks nearby quarries. Fine Tura limestone for casing across the Nile. Granite from Aswan 800 kilometers south. Transporting sledges on sand wetted for reduced friction. Barges on the Nile during flood season. Causeways from river to construction site. Lifting external ramps for lower levels straight or zigzagging. Possibly internal ramps. Recent theories. Levers and rockers for final positioning. Teams of workers coordinated precisely. Internal chambers built as the pyramid rose. Corbelled roofs, grand gallery, relieving chambers. Passages created by leaving gaps, then roofing over. Precision in 3 dimensions: alignment, level and plumb. The time frame perhaps 20-30 years. Continuous work with maximum effort during flood season. Organizational mastery as impressive as engineering. The Lighthouse of Alexandria, the challenges: building on an island, offshore construction. 130 meter height, second tallest structure after pyramids. Stability against wind, waves and earthquakes. Creating the light and reflector system. The solutions: the foundation bedrock on Pharaoh's Island provided stable base. Massive stone blocks, some underwater. Lead jointed for waterproofing. Engineering to withstand wave action. The construction sequence: build from the bottom up obviously. Internal ramps or stairs for transporting materials. Each tier narrower than the one below. Structural stability. Careful proportions to prevent collapse. The light system: large fire chamber at the top. Fuel wood transported up daily. Enormous logistical challenge. Bronze mirror, parabolic curve to focus light. The mirror required sophisticated metal working and optics knowledge. The statue cast in bronze, possibly in sections. Lifted to the top, perhaps the most challenging single operation. Secured against wind. The Colossus of Rhodes, the challenge is a 33-meter bronze statue. Standing upright, structural stability. Casting bronze in enormous quantities. Assembly of sections. The solutions: the internal framework, stone pylons forming the core. Iron bars creating an armature. This supported the bronze skin. The construction sequence: build from the legs up. Create an earth ramp around the statue as it grew. Cast bronze sections and attach them. The interior was accessible, workers could reach higher sections. The bronze casting sections cast separately: legs, torso, arms, head. Each section hollow, solid bronze would be impossibly heavy. Joints between sections riveted or welded. Finishing work: smoothing seams, adding details. The earth ramp: as the statue rose, earth was piled around it. Workers stood on the ramp to work. Once complete, the earth was removed, revealing the statue. This technique was known from other large bronze works. The stability problem: the statue was inherently unstable, tall, narrow base, heavy top. The internal framework had to resist wind. But earthquakes exceeded its capacity. The 226 BCE earthquake proved the design's limits. The Temple of Artemis, the challenge's marshy ground. The site was deliberately chosen near sacred springs. 127 columns, each 18 plus meters tall. Dipteral plan, double colonnade, complex geometry. Sculptural decoration. The solutions: the foundation, Chersiphron's innovation, layers of charcoal and fleeces. These materials were compressible and drainable. They prevented the temple from sinking into the marsh. A brilliant solution to a unique problem. The columns quarried, shaped, and transported as drums. each drum weighing many tons. Chersophron's rolling cradle drums rolled like wheels from quarry, assembled on site with wooden cranes. Precise vertical alignment. The sculptured columns, some column bases had relief sculptures. These were carved while the drums were horizontal, then erected carefully, a fusion of architecture and sculpture. The roof, massive wooden beams, covered with terracotta tiles. The weight required strong columns and walls. Fire was a constant danger, wooden roof, oil lamps, etc. The human cost. The price of wonder. We must acknowledge that these magnificent achievements came at human cost. Labor conditions for pyramids. Recent evidence suggests workers were paid and honored, not slaves. But the work was brutal, hot, dangerous, exhausting. Injuries and deaths occurred. Skeletal remains show healed fractures, worn joints. Workers received medical care, but not all survived. For Greek monuments, some workers were slaves, especially in quarries. Free workers were paid, but conditions were harsh. Quarrying and construction were dangerous. Heat, falling stones, accidents, and overexertion killed some workers. The opportunity cost. Resources diverted. The enormous wealth spent on monuments could have fed the hungry, built infrastructure, etc. Thousands of workers' labor was directed to glorifying rulers or gods, not improving common people's lives. This reflects ancient priorities: divine and royal glory over social welfare. The justifications, ancient perspectives. The wonders employed thousands, providing livelihood. They inspired pride and unity. They honored the gods, essential in ancient worldviews. They demonstrated civilization's achievement. By ancient standards, these were worthwhile expenditures. Modern perspectives, we can admire the achievements while questioning the priorities. The human cost reminds us that greatness is complex. The wonders are both marvels and monuments to hierarchy and inequality. The legacy of ancient engineering. What they achieved with limited technology. Ancient engineers moved millions of tons of stone, built structures over 100 meters tall, created precise alignments and proportions, innovated solutions to unique problems, demonstrated mathematical and practical genius. The knowledge, some techniques were recorded. Vitruvius's De Architectura, Greek mathematical texts. Some were transmitted through apprenticeship. Some were lost when civilizations fell. Modern archaeology and experimentation are recovering ancient knowledge. The inspiration, ancient achievements inspire modern engineers. They show what's possible with ingenuity and determination. They remind us that primitive is a misleading term for ancient societies. The wonders prove human capability is timeless. Modern parallels, we still build wonders: skyscrapers, Burj Khalifa, 828 meters. Bridges, Golden Gate, Brooklyn Bridge. Dams, Hoover Dam, Three Gorges Dam. Space exploration, International Space Station, Mars rovers. The continuity, the impulse to create something extraordinary persists. Modern technology allows greater scale. But the fundamental human drives, ambition, pride, achievement, legacy remain unchanged. The seven wonders were built through a combination of mathematical knowledge, practical ingenuity, organizational mastery, massive labor forces, and sheer determination. They represent what humans can achieve when skill, resources, and ambition align, even without modern technology. Ancient engineers created monuments that still inspire wonder millennia later. 6 of the 7 wonders have vanished, leaving only fragments, descriptions, and memories. Understanding their destruction reveals the fragility of even the greatest human achievements, and the various forces, natural and human, that erase the past. The wonders fell to earthquakes, fires, deliberate destruction, and the slow erosion of time and neglect. The natural destroyers. Earthquakes, the great leveler, the seismic Mediterranean, the tectonic setting. The Mediterranean region sits on the boundary between the African and Eurasian tectonic plates. These plates collide, creating seismic activity. Earthquakes have shaken the region for millions of years. Ancient civilizations built in earthquake zones. The vulnerable wonders. The Colossus of Rhodes fell 226 BCE, stood for only 56 years. The earthquake struck around 226 BCE. The statue was already structurally challenged, tall, narrow base. The earthquake snapped it at the knees. It toppled and broke into pieces. Why so vulnerable? Bronze statue, heavy top, narrow base, inherently unstable. Internal iron framework, strong but inflexible, couldn't absorb seismic stress. The oracle's prohibition on rebuilding suggests the design was recognized as flawed. The Lighthouse of Alexandria, damaged 10th-14th centuries, survived for over a millennium before earthquakes began destroying it. Series of earthquakes gradually toppled sections. 956 CE damage to the top, 1303 CE major damage, 1323 CE further destruction or possibly same earthquake. Sources vary. By 1480, only ruins remained used as a quarry for Fort Catebay. Why did it last so long? Massive, solid construction, 3 tiers, each wider at base than top, stable design. Deep foundations on bedrock. But eventually, accumulated seismic damage was too much. The Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, damaged 12th centuries, survived over 1600 years. Earthquakes in the 12th-15th centuries gradually destroyed it. By 1494, it was ruinous enough for the Knights of St. John to use as a quarry. The pattern: earthquakes were the primary destroyer of ancient monuments in the Mediterranean. Even well-built structures eventually succumbed. The wonders that stood longest, pyramids, lighthouse, mausoleum, had massive, stable designs. But time and repeated seismic events defeated most. The Great Pyramid's survival: Egypt is less seismically active than Greece or Turkey. The pyramid's shape is inherently stable: broad base, tapered peak. Solid masonry, mostly solid, not hollow. Even earthquakes that have struck Egypt caused minimal damage. Fire, the rapid destroyer, the vulnerability of ancient architecture: wooden elements. Roofs were typically wood and terracotta tiles. Interior framing often used wood. Doors, furnishings, scaffolding, all combustible. Heating and lighting: oil lamps, torches, braziers, open flames everywhere. No concept of fire codes or prevention. Fires were common in ancient cities. The fallen wonders: the Temple of Artemis, burned 356 BCE, then destroyed later. Herostratus's arson, 356 BCE. Deliberate arson destroyed the archaic temple. The wooden roof burned. The fire weakened stone. Heat causes stone to fracture. Columns collapsed. The interior was gutted. The rebuilding: the Hellenistic temple was even more magnificent. But it too was vulnerable. The final destruction: late antiquity. Christian mobs, or authorities, destroyed pagan temples. The Temple of Artemis was closed, looted, and destroyed 4th-5th centuries CE. Stones were taken for other buildings. Eventually, nothing remained above ground. The statue of Zeus, possibly burned 5th century CE. The uncertain end: we don't know exactly how the statue was destroyed. Possibilities include transported to Constantinople, then burned in the Palace of Colossus. Fire, 475 CE. Destroyed at Olympia in a temple fire. Dismantled and melted down. The gold was valuable. The vulnerability: gold and ivory over a wooden core. Inherently flammable. If fire reached it, it would burn quickly. The gold would melt, the ivory char, the wood burn. Fire's efficiency: fire can destroy in hours what took decades to build. Its indiscriminate, beautiful, and mundane burn equally. Ancient cities lost countless treasures to fire. Time and neglect: the slow erasers, the gradual disappearance. The hanging gardens, if they existed. Gardens require constant maintenance. Without watering, plants die. Without structural upkeep, terraces collapse. A neglected garden becomes ruins within years. If the gardens existed, they probably disappeared when Babylon declined. By Roman times, travelers couldn't find them, suggesting they'd been gone for centuries. Maintenance requirements: ancient monuments required continuous maintenance. Stone erodes, joints fail, decorations fall. Roofs leak, causing interior damage. Without constant work, buildings deteriorate. When civilizations fall: conquest, economic collapse, or environmental change ended civilizations. Monuments lost their patrons. Maintenance stopped. Decay accelerated. The Lighthouse of Alexandria, after the Arab conquest, 641 CE. Alexandria declined. Cairo became Egypt's capital. The lighthouse was maintained for centuries but eventually neglected. By the time earthquakes struck 10th-14th centuries, it may have already been weakened by neglect. The elements: weather, rain erodes stone, especially limestone. Wind-blown sand abrades surfaces. Freeze-thaw cycles crack stone in colder climates. Salt water corrodes coastal monuments. Vegetation: plants grow in cracks, widening them. Roots break apart masonry. Forests can engulf abandoned structures. The desert in dry climates, structures last longer. Egypt's advantage. But sand buries them. Olympia, Ephesus. Excavation is needed to reveal what time buried. The human destroyers. Deliberate destruction, iconoclasm, and conquest, religious destruction. Christianity's rise. As Christianity became dominant 4th-5th centuries CE, pagan temples were destroyed. Justified as eliminating idolatry. Imperial decrees closed temples. Christian mobs sometimes attacked pagan sites. The victims, the temple of Artemis, pagan temple destroyed. The statue of Zeus, pagan idol, destroyed or removed. Countless other temples, statues, and sacred sites. The logic: Christians believed pagan gods were demons. Destroying their temples and statues was righteous. This saved souls and purified the land. To modern sensibilities, it was cultural vandalism. To ancient Christians, it was holy duty. Islamic conquests. Islam generally tolerated ancient monuments. They weren't worshipped. But resources were needed for new construction. The Colossus's bronze was valuable, taken and melted down. 654 CE. Other monuments were sometimes quarried for building material. War and conquest. Victorious armies often destroyed defeated enemies' monuments. This erased their glory and demoralized survivors. The wonders mostly avoided this. They were in major cities that changed hands but weren't razed. Quarrying, recycling the past. Monuments as building material. When new buildings were needed, old monuments provided convenient quarries. The Great Pyramid, the smooth casing stones, were stripped mostly in the Middle Ages. Used to build mosques and palaces in Cairo. The core remains, but the beautiful white exterior is gone. The Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, the Knights of St. John systematically dismantled it, 1494–1522. The marble was used for Bodrum Castle. Sculptures were destroyed, pagan images, or used as fill. Efficient recycling, but cultural catastrophe. The Temple of Artemis, stones taken for Byzantine and later buildings. The site was gradually buried and lost. By the 19th century, nothing visible remained. The Lighthouse of Alexandria, Fort Catebay, 1480, was built with lighthouse stones. Mamluk builders needed quality stone. The ruined lighthouse provided it. Pragmatic but destructive. The logic: quarrying new stone is expensive and labor-intensive. Reusing cut, dressed stone from ruins is efficient. Ancient monuments were seen as resources, not heritage. Only in modern times has preservation become a priority. Treasure hunting and looting, the value of precious materials. Many wonders contained gold, bronze, or other valuables. The statue of Zeus, hundreds of kilograms of gold. Valuable ivory. These materials ensured the statue would be looted. The Colossus, 15 tons of bronze. Sources vary. Even broken, the bronze was valuable. Eventually taken and melted down. The Mausoleum and Temple of Artemis, gold decorations, valuable sculptures. Looted in antiquity or later. Treasure hunters dug into ruins. The pattern wonders with precious materials were targeted. Even if the structure was respected, the valuables were taken. This accelerated decay, removing elements weakened structures. Accidental destruction, collateral damage, wars, sieges, battles, and conflicts sometimes damaged monuments. The Library of Alexandria, associated with the lighthouse and city, was damaged or destroyed multiple times by Caesar's fires, Christian mobs, Arab conquest. Historians debate which event was most destructive. Urban development, growing cities encroached on ancient sites. Foundations were dug, disturbing ruins. Modern buildings sit atop ancient remains. Salvage and souvenir hunting, travelers took pieces as souvenirs. Before modern archaeology, this was common. Small losses accumulated over centuries. The survivors and near misses. The Great Pyramid, why it endures. The advantages: solid stone construction, no wood to burn, minimal earthquake vulnerability. Desert location, low seismic activity, dry climate, preserves stone. Geometric stability, pyramid shape sheds stress. Cultural reverence, even conquerors respected it. Sheer mass, too big to easily destroy. The damages: it survived Caliph al-Mamun's tunnel, 820 CE, to enter the interior. Stripping of casing stones, Middle Ages. Various earthquakes, minimal damage. Napoleon's soldiers reportedly used the pyramid for target practice. Sources uncertain. The result: the only wonder substantially intact after 4,500 years. The near misses, monuments that almost survived. The lighthouse, if the 14th century earthquakes had been less severe. If maintenance had continued, it might still stand, though perhaps damaged. The Colossus, if rebuilt, the oracle's prohibition prevented this. Or if it had stood in a less seismic area, it might have survived longer. The statue of Zeus, if not transported, if the Constantinople story is true, if Christians had preserved it as art rather than destroying it as idolatry, it might have survived, though fire or looting would likely have claimed it eventually. The lessons of destruction. The fragility of achievement. Nothing lasts forever. Even the greatest human creations are temporary. Time, nature, and human action eventually destroy everything. The wonders remind us of impermanence. Preservation requires effort. Monuments decay without maintenance. Each generation must choose to preserve or let fall. Modern preservation. UNESCO, archaeology, conservation is a recent development. Much has been lost because earlier generations didn't value preservation. What we've lost beyond the wonders, the Library of Alexandria, hundreds of thousands of scrolls, irreplaceable. Countless ancient texts. We know many existed from references, but they're lost. Most ancient art and architecture, we see only a tiny fraction of what was created. Languages, knowledge, technologies, some recovered through archaeology, but much is gone forever. The cost of destruction, cultural impoverishment. We can't see what our ancestors created. Lost knowledge. Ancient texts contained information we'll never recover. Broken continuity. Connections to the past are severed. The responsibility. Modern heritage preservation. UNESCO World Heritage Sites protecting cultural treasures. Archaeological ethics. Excavate carefully, preserve context, prevent looting. Museum stewardship. Preserving fragments of the wonders. Digital preservation. Scanning, modeling, documenting before further loss. The debates. Should artifacts be returned to their countries of origin? The Elgin marbles, etc. How much modern intervention is appropriate? Reconstruction, restoration. How do we balance preservation with access? Tourism damages sites. The wonders. Destruction teaches us that greatness is fragile, that preservation requires conscious effort, and that each generation inherits treasures from the past and has a responsibility to protect them for the future, though ultimately, even our best efforts can only delay the inevitable erasure that time, nature, and human folly bring to all things. The traditional seven wonders reflected the limited geographic knowledge of ancient Greek and Roman travelers. They knew the Mediterranean world, but not the achievements of civilizations in China, India, sub-Saharan Africa, or the Americas. Understanding the seven wonders requires acknowledging that equally impressive monuments existed beyond the classical world's horizon, and that wonder is culturally defined. The limitations of the classical list. Why only 7? The number's significance. 7 was a sacred number in ancient numerology. 7 classical planets: Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. 7 days of the week. 7 wonders created a pleasing symmetry. The geographic bias. The known world. Ancient Greek and Roman travelers could visit the Mediterranean and Near East. Beyond this, their knowledge was vague or mythical. China, India, sub-Saharan Africa, and the Americas were unknown or barely known. The 7 wonders were really the 7 wonders of the Mediterranean and Near East. The cultural bias. The list reflected Hellenistic values, Greek architecture, sculpture, engineering. Monuments in non-Greek styles might be underappreciated or unknown. The compilers were educated Greeks and Romans. Their perspective shaped the list. The changing lists. Different ancient writers listed different wonders. Some included the walls of Babylon or the palace of Cyrus instead of others. The list wasn't fixed until medieval times. Modern new 7 wonders polls create contemporary lists. The other ancient civilizations. China, the Great Wall and more. The Great Wall of China, the construction begun in the 7th century BCE. Early walls, unified and expanded by Qin Shi Huang, 3rd century BCE. Extended and rebuilt through centuries. Most surviving sections are Ming Dynasty, 14th-17th centuries CE. The scale over 21,000 kilometers, 13,000 miles, including all branches. Crosses mountains, deserts, and grasslands. The most extensive architectural project in human history. The purpose: defense against northern nomadic invasions. Symbolic, marking the boundary of Chinese civilization. Administrative, controlling trade and immigration. Why not a wonder? Unknown to ancient Mediterranean world. If Greeks and Romans had known, it certainly would have qualified. Other Chinese achievements: the Terracotta Army, 8,000 plus life-size warriors buried with Qin Shi Huang. The Grand Canal, the world's longest canal, begun 5th century BCE. Porcelain technology far ahead of the West. Gunpowder, printing, and the compass. India temples and stupas, the Great Stupa at Sanchi Buddhist Monument, begun 3rd century BCE, expanded 1st century BCE, 1st century CE, hemispherical dome symbolizing the cosmos. Intricately carved gateways. Still standing UNESCO World Heritage Site. Rock-cut temples, Ajanta Caves, 2nd century BCE, 5th century CE, Buddhist monasteries and temples carved into cliffs with stunning murals. Ellora Caves, 6th, 10th centuries CE, Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain temples cut from living rock. Colossus Temple at Ellora, carved from a single rock, one of the most astonishing architectural achievements. Why not wonders? Beyond the ancient Mediterranean world's knowledge. If known, the rock-cut temples especially would have impressed. Other Indian achievements: advanced mathematics, zero, decimal system, algebra, trigonometry. Sophisticated urban planning, Indus Valley cities like Mohenjo-Daro, c. 2500 BCE. Metallurgy, the iron pillar of Delhi, 4th century CE, hasn't rusted in 1600 years. Sub-Saharan Africa, Great Zimbabwe, and more Great Zimbabwe, stone city in modern Zimbabwe. Built 11th-15th centuries CE, so post-classical, but worth noting. Massive stone walls without mortar. Sophisticated architecture and urban planning. Capital of a wealthy trading kingdom. Earlier African achievements: Nubian pyramids, Sudan, 8th century BCE, 4th century CE, over 200 pyramids, steeper than Egyptian pyramids. Aksum, Ethiopia, powerful kingdom, 1st, 7th centuries CE with massive stone stelae obelisks. Nok culture, terracottas, Nigeria, 1000 BCE, 3 CE. Why not wonders? The Mediterranean world had limited contact with sub-Saharan Africa. Trans-Saharan trade existed, but knowledge of interior African civilizations was limited. The Americas pyramids and cities: Mesoamerican pyramids, the Pyramid of the Sun, Teotihuacan, Mexico, built around 200 CE. About 65 meters, 213 feet tall. One of the largest pyramids in the Americas. Part of a vast planned city population, perhaps 100,000, 200,000 at its peak. Mayan pyramids and cities: Tikal, Guatemala, massive pyramids and palaces. Palenque, Mexico, exquisite architecture and art. Chichen Itza, Mexico, El Castillo pyramid, later, post-classical Maya. Inca achievements: Machu Picchu, 15th century, CE, too late for ancient lists, but worth noting. Sacsayhuaman, massive stone walls near Cusco. Road systems spanning thousands of kilometers. Why not wonders? The Americas were completely unknown to the Old World until 1492. These civilizations developed independently. If the ancient lists had been global, these would certainly be included. Petra, the Rose-Red City, the Nabatean capital, location in modern Jordan. The achievement: carved into rose-colored sandstone cliffs, 1st century BCE, 1st century CE. Elaborate facades: the treasury, the monastery. Sophisticated water management in the desert. A wealthy trading city. Why not a wonder? It was known to the Roman world, incorporated into the empire in 16 CE. But it was remote and not widely visited. If more Romans had seen it, it might have made the list. Modern travelers often call it the eighth wonder. Angkor Wat Temple City, the Khmer achievement, built 12th century CE, so post-classical, but worth mentioning. Location: Cambodia. The scale: the largest religious monument in the world. A city-sized temple complex. Intricate bas-reliefs and architecture. Originally Hindu, later Buddhist. Why not a wonder? Far beyond the ancient Mediterranean world's knowledge. In a modern global list, it would certainly be included. The medieval lists later wonders as medieval European knowledge expanded. The Hagia Sophia, Constantinople, 537 CE, Byzantine cathedral with the world's largest dome for nearly 1,000 years. Architectural marvel combining Roman engineering and Byzantine aesthetics. Still standing now, a mosque, previously a museum. The Leaning Tower of Pisa, Italy, 12th century, famous for its unintended tilt. Bell Tower, demonstrating medieval engineering. The Porcelain Tower of Nanjing, China, 15th century magnificent glazed porcelain pagoda. Destroyed in the 19th century, these later monuments sometimes appeared on medieval wonder lists, showing how the concept evolved. The modern New Seven Wonders. The 2007 poll, the new list chosen by popular vote, organized by the New Seven Wonders Foundation, the Great Wall of China, Petra, Jordan, Christ the Redeemer, Brazil, Machu Picchu, Peru, Chichen Itza, Mexico, the Colosseum, Rome, Italy, the Taj Mahal, India. Honorary status, the Pyramids of Giza, only ancient wonder still standing, automatically included. The criticism's popularity doesn't equal significance. Some worthy monuments were excluded. The poll was criticized for methodology, but it broadened the conversation globally. What this tells us: wonder is subjective, different cultures value different achievements. Engineering, beauty, scale, religious significance, historical importance, all are criteria. No objective greatest monument exists. Geographic and cultural bias. Every list reflects the compiler's knowledge and values. The ancient Seven Wonders reflected Hellenistic Mediterranean knowledge. A Chinese list would have looked entirely different. A global, multicultural list would be enormous. The achievements are universal. Every civilization has created remarkable monuments. Human ingenuity, ambition, and creativity are universal. The impulse to build something extraordinary transcends culture. We should expand our vision. Appreciating the Seven Wonders doesn't require ignoring others. Understanding the wider world of ancient achievement enriches our understanding. A truly comprehensive list would include dozens or hundreds of wonders. The Seven Wonders are a starting point, not an ending point. They introduce us to ancient achievement, and from there we can explore the wonders of China, India, Africa, the Americas, and every civilization that has sought to create something magnificent, lasting, and awe-inspiring. The Seven Wonders have been gone for centuries, except the Great Pyramid, yet they continue to fascinate, inspire, and teach us. Understanding their enduring legacy reveals why ancient monuments matter in the modern world, and what they tell us about human nature, ambition, and creativity. The cultural legacy. Shaping the imagination, art and literature, the wonders appear in countless paintings, poems, novels, and films. They symbolize lost glory, human achievement, and the passage of time. They're archetypal: the pyramid, the lighthouse, the colossus. Popular culture, video games, movies, and TV shows reference the wonders. Seven Wonders has become shorthand for extraordinary achievements. Modern lists: seven wonders of the modern world, natural wonders, etc. Echo the concept. Tourism and heritage, the sites today: Giza, Egypt, millions visit annually. UNESCO World Heritage Site. Egypt's most iconic symbol. Economic importance, tourism is a major industry. The other sites: Ephesus, Olympia, Halicarnassus, all are archaeological parks. Tourists visit the ruins, museums, and reconstructions. The wonders' legacy drives heritage tourism. The underwater archaeology, the Lighthouse of Alexandria's remains underwater off Fort Kate Bay. Proposals for underwater museums. Diving tourism. Museums: the British Museum, Mausoleum, and Temple of Artemis fragments. Istanbul Archaeological Museum, various fragments. Local museums at each site. These fragments connect us to the wonders physically. National identity, Egypt and the pyramids. The pyramids are central to Egyptian national identity. They symbolize ancient glory and continuity. They're a source of pride and economic value. Greece and its wonders, the Zeus statue and Temple of Artemis represent Greek classical achievement. They're part of the narrative of Western civilization's origins. Other nations: Turkey Mausoleum, Temple of Artemis sites. Jordan Petra, sometimes called the Eighth Wonder. India Taj Mahal, often listed in modern wonders. Heritage is contested: who owns the past? Debates over artifact repatriation. How should sites be managed? Preservation versus access. These questions reflect the wonders' continuing importance. The intellectual legacy. Architecture and engineering inspiration for builders. Architects study ancient techniques. Modern structures echo ancient forms: pyramids, columns, domes. The wonders demonstrate timeless design principles. Engineering education. How the wonders were built is studied in engineering courses. Problem-solving, mathematics, and structural engineering. Ancient solutions inspire modern innovations. Technological history: the wonders show technological development. From Egyptian mathematics to Hellenistic engineering, understanding technological progression. Historical understanding: windows into the past. The wonders reveal ancient values, what they honored. Religious beliefs: temples, cult statues. Political structures: royal power, civic pride. Economic capacity: wealth to build monuments. Interdisciplinary study: archaeology, history, art history, engineering, geology, climate science all contribute to understanding the wonders. They're case studies in how we reconstruct the past. Public interest in history: the wonders fascinate the public. They're gateways to ancient history. They make the past tangible and exciting. The philosophical legacy: ambition and achievement, what humans can accomplish. The wonders demonstrate human potential. Without modern technology, ancient peoples created marvels. They inspire us to attempt great things. The drive for immortality: the builders sought to transcend death through monuments. Khufu, Mausoleum, Artemisia all sought eternal memory. They succeeded, we still remember them. But the irony: most monuments fell, yet the names endure. Hubris and humility: the cautionary tale. The Colossus fell, divine punishment for hubris. Herostratus burned the temple of Artemis, fame through destruction. The wonders remind us of human limits. Even the greatest achievements are temporary. The balance: we should strive for greatness, but with humility, recognizing our smallness in cosmic time. The wonders embody this tension. Beauty and meaning: why create beauty? The wonders weren't just functional, even the lighthouse was beautiful. Humans need beauty, meaning, and transcendence. Art and architecture serve psychological and spiritual needs. The pursuit of excellence: the finest materials, the greatest artists, the most skilled workers. Perfectionism in service of the divine, the state, or the dead. This pursuit elevates civilization. The moral legacy: the costs and benefits, the achievements, magnificent art and architecture. Technological innovation, cultural enrichment, employment for thousands. The costs: labor dangerous, exhausting work. Resources diverted from other uses. Inequality, glorifying elites while masses struggled. Environmental impact: quarrying, deforestation for fuel. The question: were the wonders worth their costs? By ancient standards, yes, honoring gods and kings was paramount. By modern standards, it's complicated. We value the achievements but question the priorities. Preservation ethics: our responsibilities. We've inherited fragments of the wonders. Do we have a duty to preserve them? For whom? Future generations, the original cultures, humanity generally? The debates: should the Elgin marbles return to Greece? Should Egypt demand return of artifacts? How do we balance preservation with access? Who decides? Nations, international bodies, local communities? Cultural heritage: as common inheritance, one view heritage belongs to all humanity. Another view heritage belongs to the culture that created it. The wonders raise these questions. The contemporary relevance: modern wonders: we still build wonders. Burj Khalifa, 828 meters, over 6 times the pyramid's height. Large Hadron Collider, 27 kilometers circular tunnel. International Space Station. The Internet, a wonder of connectivity. The continuity: the same impulses, ambition, pride, achievement, legacy drive modern projects. We use different technologies but similar motivations. The wonders remind us we're part of a long tradition. Sustainability questions: ancient monuments and the environment. The pyramids required deforestation for fuel, rollers, scaffolding. Marble quarrying scarred landscapes. Bronze casting consumed resources. Modern parallels: our monument cities, infrastructure, industries have enormous environmental costs. Are we building unsustainably? What will our wonders cost future generations? The lesson: create responsibly. Consider long-term impacts. Balance achievement with sustainability. Global citizenship: understanding other cultures. The wonders beyond the 7 Chinese, Indian, African, American teach us about diverse civilizations. Appreciating global heritage promotes cross-cultural understanding. We share a planet and a history. Common humanity: all cultures have created beauty and sought greatness. The impulse is universal. This connects us across time and space. Why they still matter? Because they inspire, they show what's possible. They encourage ambition and creativity. They demonstrate human capability. Because they teach about ancient civilizations, about engineering and art. about our own values, what we honor, what we question. Because they connected across time, linking us to ancestors, across cultures showing universal human impulses, across disciplines, history, art, science, philosophy converge, because they make us wonder, how were they built? What did they mean? Why did they vanish? These questions drive inquiry and imagination. Because they humble us, even the greatest achievements are temporary. Time and nature are more powerful than human pride. This perspective is valuable. Because they're beautiful even in ruins or reconstruction, they move us. Beauty is its own justification. The wonders enriched their worlds and ours. The 7 wonders matter, not because they're the only achievements, or even necessarily the greatest, but because they've captured human imagination for millennia, because they embody universal human impulses, and because they teach us about ourselves, our ambitions, our capabilities, our hubris, and our longing for something greater than ourselves that might, against all odds, transcend our brief lives and echo through eternity. And so we come to the end of our journey through the 7 wonders of the ancient world, from the eternal Great Pyramid of Giza, standing after 4,500 years in the desert, to the mysterious hanging gardens of Babylon that may have bloomed only in legend, from the gold and ivory magnificence of Zeus at Olympia to the Mausoleum that gave its name to all grand tombs, from the temple of Artemis burned for fame to the Colossus that proclaimed Rhodian freedom, and finally to the Lighthouse of Alexandria that guided sailors home for over a millennium. What have we learned? We have learned that the 7 wonders were not merely impressive structures but reflections of the civilizations that created them: Egyptian obsession with death and eternity, Greek pursuit of beauty and proportion, Hellenistic fusion of cultures, and the universal human desires for glory, meaning, and immortality. We have learned that ancient engineers were brilliantly capable. Without computers, power tools, or modern mathematics, they moved millions of tons of stone, built structures over 100 meters tall, created optical illusions and precise alignments, and solved problems we still struggle to fully understand. They were not primitive, but sophisticated, using observation, experimentation, mathematics, and sheer ingenuity to achieve marvels. We have learned that the wonders were built at enormous human cost through labor that was dangerous, exhausting, and sometimes deadly, using resources that could have fed the hungry or improved common lives. We can admire the achievements while acknowledging the suffering that created them, recognizing that greatness is always complicated by the question, at what cost, and for whose benefit. We have learned that almost everything is temporary. 6 of 7 wonders have vanished, destroyed by earthquakes, fires, human vandalism, or slow neglect. Even the Great Pyramid has lost its gleaming casing stones. Time and nature are more powerful than human ambition. This teaches humility. Our greatest works will eventually crumble, our civilizations will fall, and future generations may struggle to remember our names. Yet we have also learned that memory and influence transcend physical survival. The destroyed wonders live on in descriptions, fragments, artistic representations, and cultural memory. The Colossus inspired the Statue of Liberty. The lighthouse gave us the word pharaohs for lighthouse. Mausolus's name became Mausoleum. The wonders achieved a kind of immortality through their cultural impact, even as their physical forms disappeared. We have learned that the concept of wonder is subjective and culturally limited. The 7 wonders reflected Hellenistic Mediterranean knowledge, ignoring magnificent achievements in China, India, Africa, and the Americas. A truly global list would be far longer and more diverse. This teaches us to expand our horizons, to appreciate achievements beyond our cultural tradition, and to recognize that human brilliance is universal. The paradoxes of wonder. The wonders embody paradoxes: permanence and impermanence, built to last forever. Most fell within centuries. Yet their fame endures millennia after their physical destruction. Achievement and cost: magnificent accomplishments created through exploitation, suffering, and resource diversion. Beauty and brutality intertwined. Pride and humility: the builder's pride, we shall create something eternal, meets the humbling reality that almost all crumbled. Yet the attempt itself is noble. Individual and collective single names survive: Khufu, Phidias, Mausolus, But the wonders were created by thousands of unnamed workers, whose collective labor made greatness possible. Function and art. Some wonders were practical, the lighthouse guided ships, the pyramid entombed a pharaoh, but all were also art, beauty for its own sake. Humans need both utility and beauty. The enduring questions. The wonders raise questions that remain relevant. What should we build? What monuments and institutions will we create for future generations? What deserves our resources and labor? How do we balance ambition and responsibility? Should we pursue greatness even when it's costly? How do we weigh achievement against sustainability and justice? What will endure? What from our civilization will survive millennia? What do we want to be remembered for? Who benefits? Do our monuments serve the few or the many? Do they glorify elites or enrich everyone? How do we preserve the past? What responsibilities do we have to heritage? How do we balance preservation with progress and access? What constitutes wonder? Is it scale, beauty, difficulty, meaning, or something else? Can we create wonder without exploitation? The universal human impulse. At their core, the seven wonders reveal a fundamental aspect of human nature. We are driven to create, to build, to make, to leave something behind. This impulse crosses cultures and eras. From cave paintings to space stations, from pyramids to skyscrapers, from poems to symphonies, we create because we must. We seek transcendence, something greater than our individual, temporary lives. We want meaning, beauty, connection to the divine or eternal. The wonders were attempts to touch the infinite through the finite, to create earthly representations of heavenly perfection. We desire remembrance, to be remembered after death, to have our names echo through time. Khufu achieved this, though not as he expected. We remember the pyramid more than the man. Herostratus achieved it through infamy. Phidias achieved it through genius. We all in our ways seek immortality. We are capable of greatness when we organize, cooperate, apply intelligence and effort. We can achieve extraordinary things. The wonders prove this. They show human potential at its highest. But we are also flawed. Pride becomes hubris. Ambition becomes exploitation. The pursuit of glory creates suffering. The wonders reflect our nobility and our failings equally. The final word. As you drift towards sleep, carrying with you images from our long journey, the Great Pyramid rising from the desert, eternal and enigmatic, gardens terraced in impossible green amid Babylonian dust, Zeus enthroned in gold and ivory, the Mausoleum's chariot crowning Halicarnassus, columns surrounding Artemis's temple, the bronze Colossus fallen and broken, and the lighthouse's fire-piercing Mediterranean darkness. Reflect on this. The seven wonders of the ancient world were built by humans not so different from us. They felt ambition and fear, pride and humility, love and hate. They looked at the world and thought, we can create something magnificent. And they did, using simple tools, mathematical knowledge, massive labor forces, and extraordinary determination. Most of their creations have vanished, toppled by earthquakes, burned by fire, dismantled by later generations, eroded by time. Yet the wonders live on in memory, in fragments preserved in museums, in the cultural inheritance that shapes how we think about achievement and beauty, and in the inspiration they provide to each new generation that learns their stories. Tomorrow, you might visit a museum and see fragments of the Mausoleum or Temple of Artemis. You might see photographs of the Great Pyramid or computer reconstructions of the vanished wonders. You might read Homer or Herodotus and encounter references to monuments now gone. You might stand before a modern monument, a skyscraper, a museum, a memorial, and recognize the same human impulses that built the wonders. Sleep peacefully, knowing that the drive to create, to achieve, to leave something beautiful and meaningful behind, the impulse that built the seven wonders, continues in every human who has ever looked at the world and thought, I can make this better, more beautiful, more enduring. The wonders may fall, civilizations may crumble, and time may erase our names, but the creative spirit that builds wonders is eternal, passing from generation to generation, creating new marvels, asking new questions, and proving again and again that humans, despite our limits and flaws, are capable of genuine wonder. The Great Pyramid still stands, keeping watch over the desert as it has for 45 centuries. The other wonders live in our imagination, in the fragments we've preserved, and in the inspiration they provide. And somewhere, someone is dreaming of creating the next wonder, the next achievement that will, against all odds, echo through the ages and make future generations stop and ask in awe, how did they build that?